So it's Friday. We know what that means. And let's see if we can actually hit it to where it actually does what it says it's going to do. We hit our magic button and go here. No, I hit the wrong one. Let's try the short version.
Come on, man. Go for it, dude.
It's Friday. Friday.
And Lucas Panzica is in Nashville, and he's going, what in the wide world of sports have I wandered into? Bat and leadoff. Promise, this time it actually is happening. Lucas Panzica, 104.5 The Zone. Morning, brother. What's going on?
Morning, John. Hope you can hear me all right. A little cold, but excited to get the season started.
4 degrees, if I remember correctly, just staring over at the big 55, and they were telling me what's going on up there. And hopefully the water, the pipes did not freeze for you or any of your neighbors. You kept the spigot on overnight in the furthest bathroom away from you, and that everything is up and running. Wasting no time, because I know you actually have a job and you have to leave there to go to said job. Brought you in here to talk about Nashville, as we always do, coming into match week number 1. When you look back at 2024 and you look at the season and all of its transitions and everything, and ending up with BJ Callahan on the touchline, now he gets his first full training camp, summer and winter and everything, getting into this particular season, what sticks in your mind the most as you analyze 2024?
Well, it's kind of a fresh start. It's the first full season for BJ Callahan. Like you said, obviously he had the 9 games in charge last year, but that was him coming in, inheriting a team that was struggling to score goals, struggling to make a push for the playoffs. And they had some nice moments, but on aggregate, obviously, ended up in the bottom part of the Eastern Conference and missing out for the first time. Nashville just had its biggest roster overhaul in an offseason that it has ever had. 11 signings, boosting the midfield, kind of a blend of veterans with Gaston Brugman and Brian Acosta and Eddie Tagseth coming over from Norway. And some youth with a Matt Corcoran, a trialist from Birmingham Legion, who really impressed throughout the course of preseason. So they addressed every level of this team. They are much more balanced and much more well-equipped to play the way BJ wants to play, kind of that connective, free-flowing, pressing, attack-minded style. Again, John, I do think it's going to come down to your best players, as it does for most every MLS team, and that is how much Hani Mukhtar and Sam Surridge can carry the load, scoring the goals for this team.
So then if let's play defensive devil's advocate here. So if you and I are going up against this squad, and we know that the idea is to feed Hani and Sam so they can be A and B when it comes to scoring goals, if I cut off those supply lines in 2025, who is supposed to step up in those spaces to be those influencers, to be that middle step to get it to Hani and Sam to get it?
Yeah, I suppose that's what we're trying to figure out in the early goings. Early candidates, Eddie Tagseth comes over, and that's a guy that can play in a central attacking role, can play wide, can play between the lines. They really like his versatility, his ability to progress the ball, whether that's through the dribble or his passing ability, his vision. It's kind of staggered, right? It's an Eddie Tagseth who could pick up some of that goal-scoring load, or a Gaston Brugman who can do more of the string pulling from a deeper lying role. Now, I don't know that Gaston will play on Saturday. He's kind of got an issue. It seems like he's further away from any of the other guys dealing with something right now. But they love Gaston Brugman. BJ Callahan told Mike Jacobs in the offseason that they wanted to go find a midfielder like Gaston Brugman, and they got deep enough in the process to where they said, why don't we just call LA and see what we can do about bringing the man himself in here? And that's what they did. And then to your point, I want to throw in Jacob Schaffelberg's name as well, because obviously he flashed. He was a great spark for the Canadian national team last year, but he's not sort of a bright, a spry young guy from Canada that you're happy to get a few moments out of anymore. And at this point, the next step for him is to turn those international performances into consistency at the club level and more goal scoring contributions.
When you look at the vibe there in town coming out of last season and the frustrations that I'm fairly certain that everyone who believes in everyone in featured. What was the vibe been like with this transition, getting everybody ready, all of the folks that have come in? Is it fan base sitting there going, okay, I need a hello, my name is name tag for some of these folks, really having to go down the Encyclopedia Britannica of soccer, trying to figure out who these are? What's the vibe been like getting ready for 25?
A little bit of that, right? A little bit of that when you're talking about guys coming in, not new faces to MLS, Brian Acosta and Andy Nahar at right back. Those guys have been around. But yeah, Eddie Tagseth comes in and, most Nashville SC fans aren't watching the Norwegian First Division. Ahmed Kassem comes over from Sweden as a U22 initiative signing. He's still in the visa process, so he won't be playing Saturday. But fans see these moves, and Nashville is taking for. They're looking in corners of the globe they weren't necessarily looking before because Gary Smith played obviously a very certain style, and they weren't taking these sort of outside the box swings that they are now. So there's a lot of excitement there that the club is making moves like this. And on the youth side of it, Nashville was the oldest roster in MLS last season. Their average roster age went from 29 and a half to 26 and a half. There is a clear directive here where BJ Callahan has publicly said, we're not going to be afraid to play the young guys, whether it's 18-year-old homegrown Chris Applewhite or Matt Corcoran, who I mentioned from Birmingham Legion. So it's sort of this blend that makes it exciting for fans that at least can count on Nashville being fun to watch. They can be fun this year. Will they contend for a trophy? I don't know. I mean, we've seen teams make these turnarounds before, right? LA Galaxy is a prime example of it from last year, but they will at least be fun, and fans are very excited for that prospect.
What about as you analyze the rest of the conference and Nashville's place in it? We're kind of getting into, but when you analyze the rest of the conference, what do you see from your perspective coming into 25?
Man, I can't wait to see who kind of emerges as the favorites here because the usual suspects of the last couple of years, with the exception, obviously, of Inter Miami, who looks to come back stronger. I look at Cincinnati and wonder how those pieces will gel together with those changes. I look at Columbus Crew, who suddenly has had so much of that crazy goal-scoring production slashed from the last couple of years. I wonder how they'll adapt. And then I wonder what team will be able to really take advantage of maybe those teams dropping off a little bit, whether it's a Charlotte who just continues to ascend under Dean Smith or an Atlanta. I loved the offseason Atlanta had, if I'm an Atlanta fan. It just promises exciting football. And I feel like, you can tell me, obviously, being there, but I feel like so much depends on Moranchuk and how much he's able to carry the load as a playmaker consistently throughout the course of a season. But if he's able to do that, fans of the Five Stripes, I feel like, should be really excited for what's to come this year. But as usual, it feels like a lot of parity and a lot of opportunity, unless, you're Inter Miami and you're obviously the overwhelming favorite once again.
Yeah, with the Five Stripes in Atlanta United, we're trying to figure out. I think they've settled on the nickname for the attack. I mean, me being an old wrestling guy, I'm sitting there going Four Horsemen, but it looks like it's going to be SLAM is the acronym this year because of Saba, Latte Lat, Miranchuk, and Almiron. So
Yes.
there might be some Onyx being played at Mercedes-Benz this year. I don't know.
I'm into that. That's great. No, I loved I love just that sort of mix of nostalgia that can help the team, right? Bringing Almiron back, that just made too much sense. And Latte Latte, it's hard not to get fired up about what he can bring, terrorizing back lines, running in behind, running right at defenders. So I know we got to wait a few weeks for that first Nashville-Atlanta matchup, but it's a team I'm really excited to watch this year.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And so we're taking all of our activity today, except when we duck out and talk about Europa League, Champions League, and the women's national team. We're spending all of our time getting ready for the weekend, whip around and letting everything go. I know you got a boogie. Hit the promo for me about everything going on at 104.5 and let everybody know how they can keep an ear out for what's going on up there in Nashville.
Sure. You can find me on Twitter at Lucas Panzica. Will be on the call tomorrow night. Nashville hosting New England to open up the season. 7:30 Central kickoff. And as you guys know, on Apple TV, you always have the option to listen to the home radio broadcast. So I hope you'll check us out, as I believe Atlanta is an hour before, right? So maybe once that Montreal game wraps up, you can kick over and check out what's going on in Music City.
Multiple devices is what we anticipate all season long. Now that you have the key to open the door, you can crash in anytime. I'm tempted to turn Fridays into a free-for-all. So if anybody literally wants to just drop in, give me 5 minutes and get out about their particular matchup, perfectly fine and cool, because that's what Friday's for whip around when it comes to match weeks. Go to work. I don't want to get you in any trouble. Do you need a hall pass? Do you
I'm all right. I think I'll manage. Let's see if I can make it through with this snow and ice still on the ground out here. But I just got to make it to tomorrow night. Looking forward to it.
There you go, brother. Be safe. We'll catch up soon.
Thanks, John. Talk to you soon.
That's Lucas Panzica, 104.5 The Zone up there in Nashville. And it's great to catch up with him and get his feedback on what's going on. Interesting offseason for our friends up there. 4 hours away, a couple of weeks away, as Lucas said, from that matchup with Atlanta United and with Nashville. So wanted to get Lucas in to get the perspective of one of the region area rivals. We talked to Willie P earlier this week, talked to Lucas today, and so that's kind of where we sit. So hour number 2 is going to be the weekend whip around. Patent pending, trademark coming sooner, hopefully, rather than later. And we'll go over everything. I'm anticipating that Jason's weekly visits at 10:30 will start in an hour and 14 minutes from now. And we'll go over everything. I want to start with Rooted. I want to go through that. I want to go through Onside and what we saw there with Apple TV. And then I want to get into the matchup. Obviously, the news yesterday, we still have a lingering question at the back line involving a fitness test. I wanted to get Jason's thoughts on the back line, what he thinks it's going to look like, and what the attack is going to look like, and what he sees against a team in CF Montreal that could cause early problems. I mean, I think by the end of it all, we'll go through the juice boxes too as we go, but I think early on, there is no denying, and for those of us that have seen Laurent Courtois with his time in MLS Next Pro with Crew 2, we know what he can bring to the table. And there are a couple of players that can cause problems for Atlanta United and have done so in the past. You have Caden Clark and Bryce Duke for starters. You remember Bryce Duke, if it wasn't in Montreal, it was out in Los Angeles. And with Caden Clark, we know his history as well here in Major League Soccer. So past those points, want to get into that. And you've also got George Campbell hanging out at the back too. So want to get into Montreal a little bit. Want to get into Atlanta a lot. Whatever's on your mind here on a match week preview on a weekend whip around on a Freestyle Friday. So we've obviously put out the bat signal to our friends at Beyond Goals Mentoring. So we'll see if Greg and or Parky can join us in about 15 minutes. We'll go through what it's like to start something anew, what their anticipation levels are. If you've looked at Greg on his social media this morning, he was going through a 30-minute challenge. I want to talk to him about that when it comes to his mentees, and we'll find out about that. And we'll see if Parky's thawed out. So we'll get into that stuff coming up in about 15 minutes. All right, time to cut the promos and get everything squared away for you here on a Freestyle Friday. Once again, weekend whip around coming up in hour number 2. Okay. Opening kickoff presented by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. I've got the QR code in the computer somewhere. I just have to figure out how to turn it into an overlay. And this is probably where I'll consult Maddie or Jason to get that done. Go to Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. You get your day started there. Don't forget, buy out the store, because you can buy out the store. And when you use the code SoccerDownYear15 at checkout, you save 15% on your purchase. They, in turn, meaning Kickoff Coffee, take 10%, reinvest it in the youth games, youth initiatives. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. All right, opening kickoff. Does it really seem like that first ever opening day was that many years ago over on the flats? It seems like it was yesterday at some points. And in other points, yeah, it does feel like it was, that many years ago. But it's the beauty of opening day. I mean, we discuss it right now with pitchers and catchers and your favorite teams in spring training, whether it's Grapefruit or Cactus League. This is where optimism begins anew. And everything is laid out where you've got all of your off-season transactions. Everything has been put together. If you're doing fantasy, set your fantasy leagues, set your fantasy rosters. I do not know yet if we're having a fantasy league this year. And when we do, obviously we'll put out the notifications. So you set your fantasy teams. You have your expectations. You've seen what's been going on in the off-season, and now it's time for the rubber to hit the road. Slam it into drive. Squeal the tires like Steve McQueen did in Bullet when he missed the turn. Back it up and go down the intersection in one of the best chase scenes ever. Squeal the tires, slam it, and drive and go. And I know that the optimism is there, understandably so, considering what we've seen in the Eastern Conference with transactions and players going from one place to another. And here in Atlanta, obviously, with what Garth Lagerwey and Chris Henderson and the front office have done, the scouting department and everybody. globetrotting and bringing in all these players over the last, and we'll go ahead and say 9 to 12 months. And the expectations are there both in-house and obviously with you, the 17s. So you have all of this material pieced together. Tomorrow is when it hits for real. And then the sprint, which in a way it's what it is. It doesn't seem like it, but then by the time the season's over, you're like, man, that went by quick. And it kind of does. Before you know it, it will be September and October, and we'll be looking at combinations and permutations and all that kind of stuff. Enjoy the ride. Should be fun, should be a blast. Starts tomorrow. Remember, folks, pace yourself, both when you go to games and just in general. So just pace yourself, enjoy it. It's match day 1 coming up tomorrow. We'll go over broadcast plans in hour number 2 as well when it comes to Atlanta United. But pace yourself, enjoy yourself. It's match week 1. And I know that a lot of you are ready to just slam it into 5th gear and get the 2025 season underway. Understandably so. So let's have some fun. And obviously starting on Monday, programming note there, Monday we're going to be talking about it all. I will be in a hotel room in Thompson, Georgia with you because of I'll be Tuesday will be when I'm in a hotel room in Thompson, Georgia. Monday is another one of our games of the week. And so after the Monday show, where we have Reaction Monday, Monday's matches are going to be in Lincolnton, Thompson and Lincoln County. It'll be our first time there to look at the up-and-coming Lincoln County program in Class A in high school. And it's a region, it's an area rival. It's not a region rival, but it's an area rival in Thompson, separated by about 20 minutes. And it'll be a good gauge for what's been going on with Will Homskis and how they've grown the program out there. So Monday, Reaction Monday. I hop in a car, travel to Lincolnton, broadcast from Lincolnton on our Mixler channel, Thompson and Lincoln County. That is Monday night. So Tuesday, as we all try to recover, I'll be in a hotel room in Thompson, Georgia for the morning show, and we will break it down there. Today, after all of this finishes up, Jason and I, mid-afternoon, are going to try and welcome the traffic up I-75. We're going to join it. We're going to head to Dalton. Second time this week that the Dalton Catamounts have been on the air, and it's a boys' game, 7:30. Be on the air about 7:15 with your pregame show, with Dalton hosting Johnson Gainesville. 2 great programs here at the end of winter break decided, hey, let's match up and we'll see where we are. So Johnson Gainesville travels to Dalton, 7:30 kick, 7:15-ish pregame on our Mixler channel at soccerdownhere.mixler.com. So you get a big Georgia high school boys matchup tonight, 7:15 to 7:30, and then 9:30, and then Jason and I head back home. We should have an after the whistle posted for post-game of that match Saturday morning for you. It's kind of like a primer to get you into match week 1. So action tonight, 7:15 and 7:30, pregame and real game. The high school game of the day presented by our friends at Kaiser Permanente. And Kaiser Permanente, fantastic sponsors here with us here at SDH. So 7:30 match after the whistle tomorrow, because we got to drive back to Atlanta, and I've got to let out somebody because he will have been staring at the door for a handful of hours. So that's the broadcast plan today. You've got all the content that was put up yesterday. The interview that Maddie had with Dax McCarty is up on the network, so you can look at that. Get Dax's thoughts as he's heading into match week 1, now with the new gig where he's wearing a blazer and tennies, working for Apple TV. Great conversation that Maddie had with Dax. That's up on the network right now as well. So all of this stuff getting you ready for match week 1. Callum Williams conversation as well. So all of that material on the network, on all of our social media channels. You can view it, you can listen to it, all of it. Once again, getting you ready for match week 1. But tonight, first step, 7:15 pregame, 7:30 kick. Johnson, Gainesville, and Dalton from Harmon Chapel up in Dalton. And it's going to be fun to be up there and see that environment on a Friday night during winter break. Okay, other things. Now, once again, you can get the first ever SDH jersey presented by our friends at Kaiser Permanente. Thanks to our friends at Olive and York. Helps out, and once again, thanks to our friends at Beyond Goals Mentoring, Soccer for Good. And with your purchase of that Olive and York jersey, you help out some of the programs that we have earmarked here in 2025 to do our hashtag Soccer for Good campaign. You can get it. The Navy jersey is Navy. You can get it either in white letters and numerals for personalization, or you can get it in the navy blue. So you can go to Olive and York, get the SDH jersey. You can help give back as Soccer for Good here in 25. Also, what you can do is you can go to Grady Baby and Grady Baby Co. You've seen me wear the sweatshirt. You've seen Jason wear the sweatshirt. I know that some of you also have picked up the sweatshirts and or the T-shirts. You can get it in red with gold lettering. You can get it in black with gold font. Soccer's just better in Atlanta. You go to Grady Baby, and you can get the sweatshirt or the T-shirt or both, and you're helping out middle school soccer programs attached to Atlanta Public Schools. And so if you go through Grady Baby and Grady Baby Co., you get the soccer's just better in Atlanta. You help out the APS and middle school soccer programs and the growth of the game there. Also, don't forget, if you watch us on a daily basis, you see in the open the discussion about becoming a Fanatico. Go to Chant, download the Chant app, and then if you sign up for being a Fanatico, $10 a year, you get, with the Chant app, you get all kinds of discounts to a bunch of cool places, and you get to help us out here at SDH. You get discounts, a bunch of different joints here, and we're starting our Fanaticos chapter for $10 a year. You go to Chant. I think Abby has done it. Abby has navigated it successfully. I still have to figure out how to navigate it successfully, but go into Chant, become a Fanatico at SDH. You get some really cool discounts along the way. Very, very cool stuff, helping out SDH, helping out businesses, and helping out growing the game as well. So Chant, the Chant app, go into SDH, become a Fanatico, $10 a year, helps you out there. I'm trying to think. Oh, the Marshall Islands Project sent out some Marshall Islands scarves yesterday. And with all of that, what you can do is you can help out a program that is grown from the ground up. Lloyd Hours, the technical director, is on the island right now, if you follow him on the 280 character app. And you see now intra-island, since it's all inside the Marshall Islands chain, intra-island futsal tournaments. So that's where the game has grown in 18 months. They now have organized futsal tournaments amongst the islands there in the island chain. They're trying to get sanctioned and be part of the Oceania Confederation in FIFA. A lot of growing to do. You can get the jerseys through them. You get the bucket hats through them. All of that stuff you get through them. They ship it from England. Help out locally. You want to get the scarf, you go to the Marshall Islands store. You want the Marshall Islands scarf, I send it to you because I've got them on the other side of this door. We've got about 14 left right now in the current shipment. So you can help out the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation continue to grow, help the guys in England actually fly to the Marshall Islands. It's like a 22-hour flight, and you can help them out as they continue to grow the island and grow the island nation when it comes to the beautiful game. So you can help out the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation as we have with our project. You get to see Maddie's face, hold up the scarf that we helped design with them, and I send it to you. That's the beauty of it. I send you the scarf. Order everything else, it comes from England. You get the scarf, it comes from me. That's how close you are to helping out the Marshall Islands. It's a lot less than the mail service coming from the other side of the Atlantic. It's just when you kick me in the butt and get me to the you get me to the post office so I can mail it to you. So you can help out the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation by doing that. All right, so we do have news. We do have a bunch of things to discuss. The matchups are out in the Europa League, Conference League. The women's national team last night at Hell in a Shell. We had Jamie Watson on yesterday to break down the SheBelieves Cup. 2 goals on the board. Kat Macario and Ali Sentner score in the 33rd and the 60th, one in each half in front of an announced crowd of just over 15,000. And so Emma Hayes, with a bunch of new faces that are there, Yasmin Ryan, Lily Johannes, all of the younger faces were there. We'll go through the grades really quickly. Jane Campbell listed as a 5, didn't have to make a single save on the day, posted a shutout. Defenders, Emily Fox, Emily Sonnet, Tara McEwen. Fox a 6, Sonnet a 5, McEwen a 6. Jenna Neiswanger had a 4 on the night. And this is once again courtesy of our friends at Soccer America and how they view things. According to our friends at Soccer America, apparently according to Theodore Lloyd Hughes, TLH, he said that Jenna Neiswanger looked uncomfortable at times dealing with Lacey Santos Ramirez and Caicedo. So he gave Neiswanger a 4 on the night. Midfielders, Lily Johannes, Sam Coffey, Lindsay Heaps. Lily Johannes, he gave a 7. Lindsay Heaps a 5. Sam Coffey got a 6. Kat Macario back. You also had Macario. Once again, you had Yasmin Ryan and Ali Sentner. Yasmin Ryan a 6, Macario and Sentner got 7s. International debuts last night for Giselle Thompson and Michelle Cooper. Thompson goes for 14 minutes. Michelle Cooper goes for 27. And you also had Lynn Biendelo, Lynn Williams getting a handful of minutes, Jaden Shaw and Corbin Albert. 5s across the board, according to TLH and Soccer America, for Biendelo, Cooper, Thompson, Corbin Albert, and Jaden Shaw. Your trivia, courtesy of Soccer America from last night. Lily Johannes, at 17 years, 253 days old, second youngest player ever to appear in She Believes after Brazil's Gio Garbellini back in 2021. 17 years, 245, youngest ever to start a She Believes match. McEwen, Thompson, Cooper, 4th, 5th, and 6th players to earn their first caps at She Believes, following in the footsteps of Rose Lavelle in 17, A.D. Franch in 2019, and Trinity Rodman in 22. She Believes continues with the USWNT taking on Australia in Glendale on Sunday. Your refereeing crew was Karen Hernandez, Jessica Morales, Mayra Mora, and Amarani Garcia was your 4th once again. Shots on the day, 10-7 to the U.S., 3 on target for the United States, none for Colombia, 1 save for Colombia on the day. Corner kicks, 6 total, 4 to Colombia, 2 to the U.S., 26 fouls on the day, 14 for Colombia, 12 to the U.S., 6 offside calls, 4 of those to Colombia, possession 2-1 for the United States. So that's your rundown quickly of what happened in She Believes, and that's what you're staring at. So I think it was supposed to be Greg's turn. You know, Greg obviously is globetrotting. Then once again, you follow Greg through social media, you know that he's all over the place, helping out Major League Soccer and trying to grow beyond goals. And so we'll see. I'm trying to type with Greg through email at the same time I'm trying to talk to you. And so we may have a cameo. Greg is obviously he's trying to figure out if he can make it. If he can, he can. And once again, if he can't, then we'll pick up Parky and Greg on the flip side with our friends from Beyond Goals and the Friday Free Kick. Announced early this morning through MLS, all caps, and the deal is officially official. Savannah's Indiana Vassilev, part of the Tormenta system. Indy has been sent from all caps to Philadelphia for $1 million in guaranteed GAM over 2 seasons. If you read published reports, you would have seen that Indy apparently was not happy with his time in St. Louis and was looking for a new address to ply his trade in Major League Soccer. St. Louis and Philadelphia had a conversation, and so Indiana Vassilev is now headed to Philly in exchange for $400,000 in GAM in 25, $600,000 in GAM in 26, and there could be an additional $250,000 in GAM if certain performance-based incentives are achieved. This is coming straight from St. Louis City SC this morning. Lutz Pfannenstiel came out with a couple of sentences, and it was 2 seasons before St. Louis that Indy was with Messi and friends, 5+2 and 45 matches played. Back-to-back 7-goal contribution seasons with St. Louis, 2+5 and 23. 7-goal contributions and 5 assists were career bests. In 24, he had 3 goals and 4 assists over 29 matches played. So Indiana Vassilev now officially official, going from St. Louis to Philadelphia. It was reported yesterday St. Louis now has the official word out that it is Indiana Vassilev from Savannah heading from St. Louis to Philly to be a part of the Union roster here in what's the year I'm talking about? 2025. So that's where we are with the early transactions this morning, getting you ready for match week 1. Also, we'll get into we actually do have Friday night football tonight, and it is Leicester and Brentford, and there's some stuff going on overseas. We'll get into Champions League so we can get the Champions League and the Europa League out of the way when it comes to matchups and discussions and things like that. And we'll say hi to everybody, get you ready for match week 1 with Weekend Whip Round kicking off at 10 o'clock. Now, it is Champions League draw is in full, and Ricky, no doubt, it is the connection with Bradley Carnell. Carnell liked what he saw with Vassilev, and so it was an easy dance partner. So you end up with The last 16 now officially, they had the draw this morning in both Champions League and in Europa League. PSG and Liverpool. Obviously, not a bad matchup if you can have it. So you have PSG and Liverpool, and they will get the winner of Bruges and Aston Villa. So you have on the left-hand side of the bracket in Champions League, you have all three Premier League clubs. In the 8 on that side, you have all three Premier League clubs to the left. No Premier League clubs to the right. Paris and Liverpool, PSG and Liverpool, upper left. They get the winner of Bruges and Aston Villa. Low left, Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid. Gee, that won't be any fireworks or nothing. And PSV Eindhoven and Arsenal. So really the survivor of Real Madrid and Atleti could end up getting Arsenal, but don't tell PSV that. Right-hand side of the bracket, Benfica, Barca, Dortmund, and Lille. So you kind of see where it might be heading there if chalk was to happen. Bayern Munich, Bayer Leverkusen. Okay. And then Feyenoord and Inter Milan. So you do have some interesting subplots in bracket in the matchup number 3 as you go down each particular side in the brackets as you're following along in bracketology. You literally have Real and Atleti as matchup 3 on the left-hand side, and you have Bayern Munich and Bayer Leverkusen as your third matchup on the right-hand side. So that's what you're staring at with those matchups, March 4th and 5th, 11th and 12th. And that is when the Champions League gets from the round of 16 heading toward the round of 8. Liverpool and PSG. And Arsenal is on the same side of the draw as Real Madrid. Same mini bracket as Real Madrid. So if Arsenal survives, then they get the winner of Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid. Gee, thanks for dropping by. So Villa and Bruges, it's a tough quarterfinal for Unai Emery as you look forward. But Bruges and Villa, man. Round of 16, Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid. Thanks for coming. I'm not going to mention anything about frozen envelopes or anything. Third year in a row, Arsenal get PSV. Mikel Arteta's side, they've had problems away from home playing at PSV. Beat them 4-0 in the Emirates back in September of 23. League phase, Inter have only given up 1 goal in 8 matches. And that is just insane. Feyenoord are 4th in the Eredivisie. And so right now, Vincent Kompany, if you look back at the last matchup that Vincent Kompany had in Champions League, just ask Jared about Celtic and how close Celtic was to maybe knocking off Bayern Munich. If it didn't happen at the death, you would have gone an extra 30. Then you would have seen from there what would have happened. So Jared has been ruining what happened in the last round. So you've got Bayern. Xabi Alonso unbeaten in 6 against Bayern. Beat him to the league title last year. Borussia Dortmund, by the way, they're 11th in the Bundesliga right now. You get Lille, you should advance. Benfica and Barca. If you're looking at juice boxes in this one, you probably should take the over. Just saying. 5-4 when they played in January, Barcelona. Benfica and Monaco, remember the insanity of the 6-goal draw there at 3-3? Winning 4-3 on aggregate. So it's looking like, let's just say, you figure Liverpool, you figure maybe next round is Liverpool and Aston Villa, Arsenal and Real Madrid, but Real Madrid and Atleti, whoo. You figure Barca and Inter. See, one of the publications overseas is already looking at a Real Madrid win over Barca in the final. So that's what you're looking at with the draw from Champions League this morning. We do have news out of the Premier League coming up in a sec. Europa League draw, round of 16. You got, as everybody's heading to Bilbao, Victoria Pilsen and Lazio. Bodo Glimt, remember the craziness that was there in Bodo Glimt trying to advance. Furious second-half comeback, so Bodo Glimt advances. They get Olympiacos. Ajax and Eintracht Frankfurt, AZ Alkmaar and Spurs. Spurs is still hanging in there, left-hand side of the bracket. Right-hand side, Roma and Athletic Club, Fenerbahce and Rangers. So you could have Jose Mourinho and Fenerbahce taking on Roma in the next round if both teams advance. FCSB and Leon Real Sociedad and Manchester United. So Manchester United, they get past Real Sociedad. You could end up with Lyon. And then you look at the matchups. Dutch fans, remember when they tried to go for the West Ham matchup last time around? Remember the security problems there? I would anticipate a lot of security in that matchup with AZ Alkmaar and Spurs. Real Sociedad, Manchester United. With everything going on with Ruben Amorim and Manchester United, there's probably not a lot of optimism that Manchester United would get out of this matchup. You got folks sitting there saying Real Sociedad. And apparently there's going to be a 3D later today from Drew Dickinson. He said it was one of the longest 3Ds that he has ever pieced together. So listen for that, and we'll post that on the network a little later on. But so round of 16, you could have Roma and Fenerbahce in a quarterfinal. Now, news out of the Premier League. Once again, we're going to talk about Atlanta United and what's on your mind as we go. After this, get you ready for the weekend. We'll go through gossip, rumor, and innuendo, what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it. And then we're going to spend the rest of the time talking about Major League Soccer, weekend whip around, and catching up with all of you. Telegraph article, Mike McGrath. Manchester United staff threatened with the sack if they leak information. Chief Executive Omar Barada has issued a warning in an email as an investigation has been launched into a succession of leaks. Warned staff in a bombshell email revealing club information will be considered gross misconduct, which could get them sacked. A 580-word missive, McGrath says, to employees as details of the cutbacks and redundancies continue at United. Staff were told additional measures, in quotation marks, are now being put in place to prevent the details of changes being released before official club announcements. In the email, quote, anyone disclosing information outside of the club is breaching their obligations of confidentiality. We are very clear that this will be considered gross misconduct. To protect the club and its colleagues, additional measures are being put in place to prevent future breaches of confidentiality and also identify any persons responsible, end quote. Under government guidelines, employees can be dismissed immediately for gross misconduct if the correct procedures are followed, according to McGrath. So far, Sir Jim Ratcliffe has seen over 250 staff leaving through the redundancy process, another 100 now expected. United are going to hold a staff meeting Monday when further plans are outlined to reduce costs to raise revenues after losing more than £300 million in the last 3 years. And remember, earlier this week, we said that it cost £14.5 million to pay out Eric Ten Hag, his staff, and Dan Ashworth. Thank you for your service. So that's probably the biggest piece of news from the Telegraph this morning. And there's a rather large special report in the Telegraph about the first year under Sir Jim Ratcliffe as things have laid out. And it's probably easy to say that it has not been a fun year for anyone who has been associated either in the employ or in the fandom at Manchester United. Checking really quickly just to see if there's anything else that I may have missed when it comes to stuff. Probably your deeper read this morning is over at The Guardian. Has to do with the Zambian Federation, just so you're knowing what's going on with the CAF. You had an FA president reelected unopposed. 8 nominees were disqualified in the process. And so you have another federation that is in a bit of upheaval. So we'll keep an eye on that as well. Okay, let's say hi to everybody and get you into what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it, and all the gossip, rumor, and innuendo once again. Hour number 2, we're going to spend with Weekend Whip around patent pending, trademark coming sooner, hopefully, rather than later. Jason should be joining us around 10:30 or so. We'll go everywhere from onside and rooted forward with Major League Soccer, all those matchups, and what he looks at in the Eastern Conference, any of the other matchups that are there. So your gossip, rumor, and innuendo for today. Like I said, I'm getting all this stuff out of the way so we can talk MLS and Atlanta United for the remainder of the show. Liverpool look increasingly likely to sell Darwin Nunez, with him looking to struggle for playing time at Old Trafford at Anfield. Manchester United lead the race to sign Crystal Palace midfielder Adam Wharton. Juve remain interested. Jack Grealish, Kevin De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva expected to headline an exodus of Manchester City players this summer as Pep Guardiola rebuilds the squad. Manchester City also could look to sell as many as 8 senior players, according to the Daily Mirror, as they try and chase after Florian Wirtz at Bayer Leverkusen and Juve fullback Andrea Cambiaso. Guardiola is committed to putting things right at Manchester City, according to the Telegraph, but if he were asked to leave, the club would not stand in his way. If he were to ask to leave, the club would not stand in his way. I have to get my modifier right. Newcastle prepared to pay Brentford £50 million for Bryan Mbeumo. AC Milan ready to listen to offers for Rafa Leao. Barcelona, Chelsea long-term admirers. Barca can admire all they want. How are you going to pay the man? That's the biggest question. United also interested in signing Atalanta's keeper Juan Musso, currently on loan at Atletico Madrid, as concerns grow over Andre Onana's form. It's a day that ends in Y. Manchester United are also weighing up a summer move for AC Milan left back Theo Hernandez. And Milan is willing to sell. United among several European clubs interested in sporting wingback Giovanni Kenda, 17, but have not reached an agreement with either club or player. We've been discussing that with Nino Torres ever since Amorim got hired. No surprise. Gyökeres, Kenda et al. Look for that pipeline from Sporting to line up to Manchester United. Arsenal been given encouragement to sign Spanish keeper Joan Garcia from Espanyol. Newcastle will sign Burnley keeper James Trafford this summer, even if Burnley are promoted to the Prem. Newcastle interested in Bournemouth striker Antoine Semenyo. Paid a man. Barcelona, Bayern, PSG interested in signing Mason Greenwood. From Marseille, United would get 50% of any transfer fee generated by the striker. Enzo Maresca maintains the support of his players and the club's hierarchy despite his side winning just 3 of their last 11. Carlos Alcaraz, keen to make his move to Everton, where he's on loan from Flamengo, a permanent arrangement. No clause in the contract of Cole Palmer that would allow him to leave the club if they fail to qualify for the Champions League. Andoni Iraola at Bournemouth would be Spurs' preferred candidate to replace Ange Postecoglou if Ange Postecoglou ends up leaving the club in one way or another. And Arsenal have agreed to a deal to sign young Scottish central defender Callan Hamill, 15, from St. Johnstone this summer. 15 years old. Now, gossip, rumor, and innuendo is done. What to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it. And this is just Friday. Because Saturday, I know everybody that is probably here in this footprint, they're going to end up being partying at Mercedes-Benz, getting ready for Atlanta United and CF Montreal. So Friday, Turkish Super League. Eyüpspor and Besiktas is at noon once we're off the air. Rennes and Reims in Ligue 1 at 2:45. BN and Espanyol simulcasting. If you don't have the BNs, you want to get the BNs, CDO Nuestro Tele for the fans, Tay Say, our buddy Nino Torres at Gold TV, Liga 1 Max Pro. You go to Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. Helps the network out, helps our network out, helps you out, become a true degenerate that Jason has turned me into. I blame him. A UEFA Women's Nations League at 3:10 on CBS Sports Network. France and Norway. FS2 has a doubleheader going on right now in the league that we neither condone, endorse, nor promote. U20 Women's Championship in CONCACAF, 6 o'clock on FS2, Trinidad and Tobago and Bermuda. Leicester City, Brentford on USA at 3 o'clock. ESPN Deportes has Celta de Vigo and Osasuna at 3. Gold TV, Braga Nacional. See if our buddy Nino is calling that one at 3:15. 2 to NA. Friday Night Football, Puebla Tijuana at 10. Universo simulcasting the Premier League. 3 matches in the plus. The La Liga match. Bundesliga at 2:20. Bundesliga B at 12:30. Fox Soccer Plus has the U20 Women's Championship. Guyana-Belize first half is at the half right now. Dominican Republic and Bon Air is at 6. NBCSports.com. Simulcasting Leicester and Brentford at 3. You have a re-air of the draws of the Champions League and the Europa League on Paramount Plus coming at noon and 12:30. Championship, a Latelatlas. Yeah, I think I got that right. Middlesbrough at 2:45 with Bristol City. Serie A, Lecce, Udinese at 2:45. The Scottish Championship at 2:45. Greenock, Morton, and Falkirk. Vix has a doubleheader in Liga MX. Necaxa, Mazatlan, and Puebla, and Tijuana. So that is what to watch today because, like I said, all y'all going to be probably at Mercedes-Benz on Saturday, so I wasn't going to go that far. Okay, time to say hi to everybody and catch up. Once again, Top of the hour, we start weekend whip around, patent pending, trademark coming. We'll go through all the matchups, and I want to know what you think about all the other matchups, in addition to Atlanta United and with CF Montreal coming to town. Morning, Alex. Morning, Ricky. Yes, one more day. One day more. Absolutely true. And Abby, good morning. Still low on the volume. I cannot understand this. I've jacked this up like nobody's business. Morning, Derek. Let's see. Abby personalized her new jersey, same as always as far as what it says, but sparkly. We always dig sparkly. Abby was concerned about missing what happened last night at the Moxie. That was postponed. It is now our third Thursday event is March 20 at Moxie Midtown. So March 20. Set your calendars appropriately. And hopefully the loadout is cool. Can't wait to see what the TIFO looks like. You know I need a TIFO. Morning, Ropes. And let's see. Morning, David. David got halfway through his morning espresso before the Twitch pitch call. Let's see. Abby and Messi and friends having the discussion there. Let's see. I'm trying to see who else. Kefsey, grab your ticket. Come get with it. ATL Express. Okay. So, see, now Kefsey's gone musical this morning. Let's see. So, and everybody's trying to figure out how to access Morning Espresso. You can look at the video version on YouTube, audio version, and hit your podcatchers. And also, when you are a fanatico, and I'll have Jason explain this as well when he comes on, that you get a newsletter every day in your inbox. So newsletter every day with headlines, Jason with Morning Espresso in video form, and Morning Espresso goes to your podcatcher in audio form. So it gives you all three versions. It's three-dimensional when it comes to Morning Espresso here on the network. Pars, we are not doing anything tomorrow before the match because we're all going to be busy. Jason is obviously getting ready for 92.9. I will be in the building at 2:30 getting ready for everything that you'll see on the Halo board and all of that. I have to be there 5 hours early. And since it's the first one, I have to be there 5 hours early so we can get all the lighting right and the blocking right and all that kind of stuff for halftime. And Maddie is going to be busy with 92.9 as well, and she will be on pregame. So Maddie will be on pregame, and I will be doing postgame for home games, except for a couple of dates where I have conflicts, like with the basketball championships and stuff like that. So I'll be doing postgame with Abe. Maddie will be doing pregame with Abe on 92.9. Jason will be with Mike calling the match. And when postgame is done, then everybody congregates into the same room and we talk for 15 or 20 minutes. So we will all be in the building very, very early doing one thing or another attached to a game day for Atlanta United, either 92.9 or inside Mercedes-Benz for Mercedes-Benz. Yes, Ricky, rooted was great. Onside, like I said, onside has a moment. And for folks that have seen onside, you can put it in the Twitch pitch if you wish, or you can talk directly to an individual about it. But there is a moment in there, and we talked to Tyler about it back on Wednesday, that I wish I'd known it happened in real time. But to see it happen after the fact, it adds context, and you're like, whoa. It was definitely one of those whoa moments that you get in the back of your seat. So definitely onside, very, very cool. Ricky Ricardo, 8 years ago, I had an entirely different life. You ain't the only one. Okay, cool. Public service. Ricky, after the show's posting a link in the Discord to a fantasy league if anybody wants to join. And so, morning, Harry. Bart is in this morning. 1 day from the start of the season. Are you ready? I feel like I should get Triple H's drop in here now, too. Am I ready? Sure. Bring it on. I mean, everybody was like, okay, Atlanta United exits the playoffs, and it was 7 weeks ago, and everybody was thinking, it's like, well, what are you going to do for 7 weeks to talk about, to get everybody ready for 25? 7 weeks have passed, people. 7 weeks are gone. You got a match at Mercedes-Benz. You got time to catch up with your friends. Dress warmly, because I think it's only going to be in the 50s, but at least it's not going to be like 17 degrees outside. I picked that number randomly. It was not just because of 17. Bart going over USWNT. Jenna had a rough night, dealt with most of the volatile Colombian attackers. McEwen struggled a bit too. And so you've got, once again, 23rd is Glendale, 26th is at Snapdragon. We'll talk to Bart about that hour number 2 on Monday. And Ricky, yeah, Villa's got a great opportunity for them to make it to the quarters. Kefsey going to Forza Roma. And Ricky with a question. Do I have a sports ticker behind me? Yes, I do. And this is from our friends at Glance LED. And I wish I had the bigger one, like over here, like over my shoulder. But trying to figure out how to suspend it would have been a problem. So right now, the ticker that I have has news and information from the morning and things like that. But mainly it has soccer competitions and times and start times. So yeah, our friends at Glance LED, I saw that and I was like, okay, what can I add to the studio space in addition to the boss? So what I did when I remembered to turn it on is picked up the Glance LED just as something kind of over the shoulder. Like I said, I don't think we have any way to suspend the longer ticker board over my left shoulder because that's a door that goes to the outside and people would hit their head. So yeah, this is Glance LED, and hopefully some mornings if you miss information and you're looking at things short of having a ticker below me here on set, Glance LED hopefully can help you out through it. And I know I need the bigger one, but I just wanted to get something started so I could have it here. So yeah, that's our friends from Glance LED. That is a ticker that they have, and they have various sizes, and it's yours in their subscription service forever. You buy the thing and you're in. So you buy it, and folks have got like rooms with their tickers and everything like that. So I think it's 3 separate sizes for Glance. They've been running deals. And look on social media and then apply those codes, go directly to the website, and you can get your Glance LED. That is not a paid endorsement, although I wouldn't mind if Glance had LEDs for all of us here in our home studios with SDH. That's just a flat out endorsement because I'm a geek that wanted one of these things in my studio space. So no, it's not a paid endorsement at all. Glance is not a sponsor. I'd love for them to be a sponsor. But Glance LED, not a sponsor, but you can get it programmed, and you can go online once you register the device, and you can program the grid to reflect whatever you want. For me, it reflects daily news and a lot of soccer. So that's Glance LED. So there you go. Kefsey about Manchester United, doesn't love it, not ideal, but firing someone and labeling is gross misconduct as well. Gross, true. Michael Head, amazing, about to start season number 9, hoping for the best. Time to see if all the talk's going to be backed up with results. Kefsey, Alcaraz looked pretty good in the handful of matches. And Rich, with the note, I'm guessing that this is the joining of Indiana Vassilev with the link. Yes, Indy coming to Philly. And by the way, Indy's mustache could not be any more Snidely Whiplash in that promo photo. Could not be any more Snidely Whiplash or Raleigh Fingers. And those are your Google searches for today. The handlebar mustache that is growing from Indiana Vassilev, very, very strong. When we had Indy on, when he was up in St. Louis, we had him for a 1v1. He looked off my shoulder, and he saw this and lost his mind. He saw the Tormenta scarf, but just about lost his mind. PSA from Abby, effective May 7, for anybody flying everywhere. Georgia residents 18 and older have to show a real ID, a passport, or other federally approved ID to board domestic flights. Roma, and Amelia, we were talking about Roma's might get a new stadium. You're going to have to deal with the politics there in town first. And if you're dealing with the politics, and Nick can get into this a lot better than any of the rest of us can, but if a place is looking for a new stadium for a franchise inside Serie A, you got to go through the local boards and the local governments, and you got to convince them that you're not going on some kind of ground that is 3,500 years old BC when it started, and that you're not tapping into anything historic, and you're not uprooting the history there in Italy. So it is a tall slog, and I mean it in the tallest of forms, for anybody that wants to do anything modern in Serie A. Like I said, Nick can go on this topic forever because he has seen it. So that's going to be a tall slog for anybody in Serie A. Roma wants one. Don't know if Roma's going to get one. And it's going to be an interesting conversation with Rich and Bart in the Twitch pitch about the SheBelieves Cup and what it means. So I'd love to know on Monday. I want to know the end result of this chat, and even if they have some stuff offline, where Rich wants Bart to sell him on SheBelieves. Says it's not the Algarve replacement it was supposed to be. Feels like it's just an excuse for the U.S. to beat up on South Americans for a week. So I want to find out what the end of that discussion is, and I'll ask Bart about this on Monday. So remind me on Monday about that particular, as I sit here and point at the Twitch pitch here in my monitor. But yeah, I want to find out what the end of the discussion is. All right, 10 o'clock, hour and 5 minutes. We're going to go through everything in Major League Soccer. We'll go through all the juice boxes, and we will let you know what is going on here in MLS for match week number 1. So biggest thing is Bart. Here's Bart. So here we go. I'll do Bart a public service. So since Bart's looking on YouTube, Bart, sell me on SheBelieves Cup anymore. Not the Algarve replacement it was supposed to be. Feels like it's just an excuse for the U.S. to beat up on South Americans for a week. Discuss. There you go. Okay. Now, we've got to go over the broadcast teams. We've got to go over the officials. We've got to go over the juice boxes. We've got to go over the matchups because it is match week 1 in Major League Soccer. So we look at the matchups themselves. And like I said, we'll go over juice boxes. Probably the easiest thing to do is go over the matchups themselves, then go over the juice boxes, and then go back and go in depth into each match. So we can read all the results in a line, then come back and analyze the matches themselves. And like I said, Atlanta United probably going to take up the bulk of the final 30 or 35 minutes of the show. So your matchups here in match week 1 in Major League Soccer for 2025. And I'm probably going to have to be properly hydrated the entire time. So I apologize if I duck out in a matchup in mid-information just to get a good swig of soda. All right. One matchup at for 4:30, LAFC and Minnesota United. That kicks off the week. So LAFC, after freezing in Colorado, has to turn around and play Minnesota United. It's going to be a tough matchup for LAFC. LAFC is a minus 120. Draws a plus 283 in the composite, courtesy of our friends at Odds Portal. Minnesota United a plus 299. So basically, Minnesota United is a plus 300 in this matchup against LAFC. Remember, LAFC had to freeze in Commerce City, Colorado, midweek, turn around and come back for this matchup. Minnesota United, Eric Ramsey, his quarter zip vest or his button-down sweater and his white T-shirt did not have to. So Minnesota United got the chance to watch. Keep an eye on that one. Minnesota United at plus 300, draws a plus 283. Atlanta United, CF Montreal. Atlanta United a prohibitive favorite at a minus 175. CF Montreal north of plus 450. These are at 740 on Apple TV. Crew and Fire. Crew at a minus 200. Draw with Chicago, a plus 348 at the Death Star. And Chicago to win, a plus 491. Once again, we talk about teams that are having to balance a couple of different things. Columbus, no offense, out of the blocks. The offense is lacking, let's put it that way. I won't say no, because I know there's going to be a lot of folks that might have Jason Russell Rowe on their sheets this year as a leading scorer in Columbus. So Columbus, once again, minus 200, plus 348 draw. Chicago, plus 491. DC United, minus 119. Hosting Toronto FC, draws a plus 273. Toronto FC is a plus 305. Cincinnati and Red Bulls. This one will be must-see in the early block if you have multiple devices going. Cincinnati, plus 102. Draws a plus 256. Red Bulls, a plus 250. Messi and Friends hosting NYC at the Erector Set at a minus 132. Draws a plus 289. NYC's a plus 326. Purple Team hosting Philly and Indiana Vassilev. Purple Team's a minus 143. Your draws a plus 311. Philadelphia on the road at plus 334. 8:30s. Austin and Sporting. Austin a minus 125. Draws a plus 286. Sporting is a plus 307. Texas Derby, Houston hosting Dallas. We had Glenn Davis on the show yesterday to discuss Houston and what has gone on with them from 24 into 25. Houston favored at a -111. FC Dallas with Lucho Acosta. Acosta and Peter Musa, they're going to win you some games. Draws a +252, Dallas a +301. Lucas this morning, once again, Lucas Panzica, 104.5 The Zone. Nashville hosting the Revs. Nashville favored at a -118. Draws a +266. Revs are a +305. Last 8:30, all caps hosting Colorado. St. Louis City is a -104. Colorado a +290, and the Rapids are a +239. 10:30s, the beginning of Bruce Arena. The beginning of Bruce Arena, hosting RSL. San Jose's a +124. Draws a +276. RSL is a +186. Once again, RSL, you don't know what their offense is going to look like. So we will keep an eye on that. Last matchup at your 10:30s, we talked about Seattle hosting Charlotte with Nico Moreno. That conversation is up on the network. It's also on Nico's in its entirety on Nico's social media at El Rolo NW, part of the longer conversation that we had about the Western Conference. Seattle -127. Charlotte is +351. Your draw is a +258. Sunday's matches, 4 o'clock, Portland hosting Vancouver in an early Cascadia. Portland a -108. Draws a +286. Vancouver a +248. LAG at 7 o'clock hosting San Diego FC. And LAG a prohibitive favorite there at a -213. San Diego is a +455. And your draw is a +388. So those are your matchups for week number 1. Referee assignments will go through some of the greatest hits, let you know who the man is in the middle for match day 1. Pierre-Luc Lausier is going to be the man in the middle against for the matchup with Atlanta and CF Montreal. Pierre-Luc Lausier has one match in a USL championship involving Atlanta United 2 a handful of years ago. He has been the man in the middle twice for Atlanta United in history. The fourth in the matchup is Filip Dujic. And you may remember Filip Dujic. You may remember Filip Dujic from a moment last year. That moment. If you missed it, let me see if I can turn it up in time. Filip Dujic, he was the man who was part of the however VAR, but he's the fourth in this particular matchup. Ref assignments. LA and Minnesota, Guido Gonzalez Jr. is the man in the middle. Caroline Chenard is your VAR. Pierre-Luc Lausier is your man in the middle here. Lies Arfa, who I don't know, I think this is his first activity inside Major League Soccer as an AR of any degree. I think he's new here. Ben Pilgrim is your second AR. It is now changed. It is now Sergei Demyanchuk, who is the man in the middle. It is no. So I played my joke and it just passed by. Sergei Demyanchuk is now your fourth. Jeff Gamble is your VAR. FC Cincinnati and Red Bulls. Lucas Zapala is the man in the middle. Natalie Simon is your fourth. Edvin Jurasevich is your VAR. Fotis Bazakas is in the middle for Crew and Fire. Soren Stoichka is your VAR. Sergi Boyko, DC United Toronto FC. Michael Radchuk is your VAR. Messi and Friends hosting NYCFC. Rosendo Mendoza is the man in the middle. Catherine Nesbitt is your AR1. Eunice Morakchi is your VAR. Purple Team in Philly. Rubiel Vasquez is the man in the middle. Kevin Terry Jr. is your VAR. Austin and Sporting, Chris Penso is in the middle. David Barry is your VAR. David Barry, you remember, was VAR for the red card for Brad last season against LAFC. So David Barry, VAR. Chris Penso, your center ref for Austin and Sporting. Houston and Dallas, Armando Villarreal, the man in the middle. JC Rivero is your VAR. Nashville and New England, Marcus de Oliveira, the man in the middle. Jorge Gonzalez, your VAR. City and Rapids. John Freeman, no relation, man in the middle. Kevin Stott, your VAR. Malik Badawi is the man in the middle for San Jose and RSL. Sean Tahini is your VAR. Corey Rockwell is your AR number 1. Filip Dujic has now been moved to ref. The man in the middle, Seattle and Charlotte. and Greg Dopka is your VAR. Portland and Vancouver on Sunday. Victor Rivas is the man in the middle. Kevin Stott, your VAR there. LAG in San Diego. Alan Chapman, the man in the middle at 7 o'clock Eastern, 7:10, really. And then Michael Radchuk is your VAR for that matchup with LAG and San Diego. So that is your refereeing matchups when it comes to the weekend. All right, let's break it all down. LAFC and Minnesota. We'll get the okay, so we'll tell you what. Let's do that. Let's do all right. So Ricky is requesting the commentator assignments. So let's see if I can, because they're traditionally posted. They are traditionally posted. Now, there's your article about Sunday Night Soccer. There's your season preview about the only the captain rule. We have matchups, opening weekend. All right, so sliding, and I'm trying to find I can't find the announcer assignments. It's something that we're used to seeing, especially early in the week. Huh. Okay, hang on. All right, so this is, once again, I feel like I need, like, hold music or something sometimes. Let's see. Friday Night Baseball, announcer schedules, but that went offline. 2025. I really do need hold music. Okay. Match day 6 and 23. Apple.com newsroom with season pass. 30th sleeve patches, by the way. Those look kind of cool. Sunday Night Soccer. Man, this is odd. Traditionally, you're used to seeing the announced teams posted somewhat regularly, whether it's done by MLS Communications or what have you, but I don't see them. Wow. I know Derek, I could just hum the music to Jeopardy. Ropes, I don't know the full Girl from Ipanema. That's my problem, is that I don't know the Girl from Ipanema in full. 2024 assignments. 2025 is just listed. So we know who's going to be a part of it this year. We know that it's going to be a six-pack of folks. But the on-cam talent this year, just on the whole, it is going to be, you look at all the match talent, it is going to be Taylor Trollman, Diego Valeri, Mo Adu, Lori Lindsay, Andres Agulla, Tony Cherchi, Danny Higginbotham, Kendra D. St. Auburn, Marcelo Balboa, Sammy Sadovnik, Jake Zivin, Keith Costigan, Bruno Vine, Cangelosi, Pablo Ramirez. So that we know about who's going to be in this year. Studio folks, it's going to be Kevin and Ramsey Sandoval. They're going to be paired with Kalen Kyle, Antonella Gonzalez, BWP, Sasha Kleston, Dax McCarty, Gio Savarese, Miguel Gallardo, and Alonso, and Ozzy Alonso. So we know who's in. So I'm gonna go and ask someone who is a lot faster and knows where to look. It might be Jason when he pops by. Hey, Bart, done a lot of play-by-play this week. I had a point, folks. It's like you're doing it, and you're doing it, and you're doing it, and you're doing it. So I think Callum Williams is calling the matchup for Atlanta United, Ricky. I think it's Callum Williams. And so, man, that is odd. Traditionally, it's posted by Major League Soccer when it comes to who's doing what. And it's traditionally something that's released by Communications. You have the graphic up for Major League Soccer. You get the Indiana Vasilev deal. And like I said, I'm sliding through and everything, but I can't, but it doesn't. They don't have it posted. That's just strange. Man, that's disappointing. That's disappointing. I think Callum Williams is doing play-by-play for Atlanta United this weekend. So let's check, because Callum, by the way, was interviewed by Maddie, and so you can catch up with that particular interview on the network. So Cal, let's see, play games this week. Okay. So Callum doesn't list his call, but I think like I said, I think it's Callum Williams that is calling the match for Atlanta United. So yeah, they usually do post it. It's just odd. I'm just glad that I found the referee assignment. That's wild. Okay. So if anybody finds it faster than I tried to look for it, then please post the link and we can all get informed together. All right. The matchups in depth. And like I said, we'll go through these, and Jason comes in. We'll get his thoughts. If you missed him last night on the six-pack on the network, you can go back and catch it. We'll see if anything has changed from last night to this morning. LAFC in Minnesota. I would, as a rule, any team that had to play in the CONCACAF Hemispheric Extravaganza, I would be wary of them this weekend, especially if they are a favorite. Just because they had to play in the midweek and they're having to turn around. LAFC less so than the folks that really had to go on the road, like FC Cincinnati had to go on the road. Seattle had to travel 3,000 miles to get to Honduras. If you fly from Seattle to San Pedro Sula, 3,059 miles. See, those kinds of things. So anybody that had to travel distance, anybody that had to deal with the elements, because we all know how old folks are first thing in the morning, especially when it's like 19 degrees outside. Bones are a little creaky. I will be intrigued about rotation and how the rosters look for the clubs that played in the midweek. How much rotation is there? How many minutes do folks get if they weren't rotated from starting 11 to starting 11? And keep an eye on, like I said, keep an eye on the juice boxes in these matchups too. LAFC, I mean, a minus 122 Minnesota United, a tough team last season under Eric Ramsey. Basically to plus 300, heading to LAFC. Maybe look at that draw number at plus 283 as a baseline for what to expect. Obviously, Atlanta United prohibitive favorite, minus 182 in the composite. CF Montreal plus 476. Crew and Fire, same thing. You know, you look at Crew. Once again, they lose C. Raymond Cucho. Who's going to do the scoring for them, especially early in the year as they're trying to figure things out? Prohibitive favorite at a minus 200. But Chicago scores once, maybe twice. That plus 491 looks like a big number, especially the draw at plus 348. I think you could see teams that played in the midweek get results against them from the teams that come into town because of all the activity that they had to go through. All the flying, all the playing, all the miles, having to get back, regen, get the regen the next day, maybe a day of prep, and then bang, match day. We got to keep an eye on that stuff. DC and Toronto, I mean this as no real slight, but you've got to be a hardcore. If you're not going to watch your home team game, and traditionally what I will do on away days when I'm not at Mercedes-Benz is I'll watch MLS 360 and Kevin, and I'll text Kevin during the show. But I'll wait till commercial break. DC United at a minus 119. I mean, is it probably just because Toronto may be worse or more schizophrenic? Toronto coming to town at a plus 305, taking on DC United. If you have other matches to watch, I'd probably go watch those other matches at 740. That one might be a bit painful. Cincinnati and Red Bulls. Once again, this is another one of those matchups. Cincinnati a plus 102 at TQL, but they had to play in the midweek. Yes, they got a comfortable win, but it's the travel and it's all these things that you have to do to go back. And it is a Red Bulls team with a healthy, as of right now, Emil Forsberg. And they are far different as a healthy Red Bulls team than they are without Emil Forsberg. I think that you saw the difference in Red Bulls when Forsberg was a part of that lineup and what you saw when he wasn't a part of the lineup. So that's that to me is one of the big differences that's attached to this. Different with Forsberg in the lineup. Cincinnati has Evander, but once again, you're just going to tell Evander match week 1 if you're Pat Noonan, yeah, go out and run. We'll get it all figured out as we go, especially with only a couple days in between matches. One in CONCACAF and then getting everybody back for Major League Soccer. I think, once again, as we look at these things, Red Bulls at a plus 250 could go to Cincinnati and get a result. Draw is a higher number than a win. Not by much, but still is. I think you could end up with a win or a result at the very least if you're Red Bulls going into Cincinnati because of the midweek. So like I said, keep an eye on those kinds of things as we go here. Messi and friends in NYC. Obviously, Messi and friends at the Erector set a big favorite. And NYC could be losing Santi Rodriguez. I wonder once again where the goals are going to get scored from. So Messi and friends could rotate. To what extent, you don't know. But what I will, I want to do something really quickly here. I want to look at the minutes that were played in a cold night in Kansas City. I want to look at the minutes that were played by the starting lineup in that rundown. So I see a bunch of I just need the layout. How many minutes? Come on. So fine, we'll go to SofaScore. It's like you see game reports. It's like I want a box score. It's like the last page of the frickin' newspaper, like we were talking about with Glenn Davis yesterday. Okay, so lineups. Your starters, by the way, for Messi and friends in this matchup. It was Oscar Ustari in net, back four, Noah Allen, Gonzalo Lujan, Tomas Aviles, and Chelo Weigand. Midfield, Segovia, Busquets, Redondo, Allende, and your two forwards, Suarez and Messi. So, and Fafa Pico came in with a cup of coffee. Kremoski came in for a cup of coffee. Robert Taylor came in at the end. You did not see Ryan Saylor, Max Falcone, Ian Frey, David Ruiz, Santi Morales, Julian Gressel, Leo Afonso. So Leo Messi, and he played the full thing. So Messi played the full 90 before he gave the center ref off the field. Before he gave the jersey, and CONCACAF apparently has reprimanded said referee. Luis Suarez played 89 minutes before he was pulled. The younger players like Tadeo Allende played 73. Redondo played the full 90. Busquets played the full 90. Segovia played 79. So Talasco Segovia in his first match played 79 minutes. Noah Allen played the full 90. Lujan played the full 90. Aviles played the full 90. Chelo Weigand played the full 90. And obviously, Oscar Ustari played the full 90. So you have a lot of folks in this matchup for Messi and friends against Sporting who played the full 90 minutes. How many of those folks do you see in this matchup? And once again, the folks that did not play or only had a couple of minutes, Pico had 17. Kremoski had 11. Taylor had a cup of coffee. Saylor, Falcone, Frey, Ruiz, Morales, Gressel, Afonso. That was the roster that saw either a few minutes or no minutes. There's also no mention of Jordi Alba there either. So Messi and friends rotated probably to what extent? You're probably going to have Messi and Suarez in the starting day 18, match day 18, probably not going to start. How many of the young ones go back to back? Because you still have to focus on the return fixture, because you're only up that margin that you're up. So you got to find a way to lock it down. And the key is, do you want Messi and Suarez and the big guns of the Gulfstream Galacticos? You need them for leg 2. So probably match day 18 not starting. I will be intrigued what Javier Mascherano does in this matchup. Do I think NYC can get a result? I still think that somewhere, somehow, Messi and Suarez come in with 20 or 30 to go. They get a goal. They get the win. Purple team in Philadelphia. Purple team in Philly. Philly, once again, you wonder where the goals are going to come from. Orlando at home. You have some folks that are away from the 24 roster. I wonder what Bradley Carnell's approach is going to be here in match week 1. And what I mean by that is he going to be more Red Bullsian? Is he going to be St. Louis-y? What's it going to look like? What's it going to look like with Bradley Carnell on the touchline now? Is it going to be very pressy with some older individuals? If you're going to press and do things a Red Bullsian way, late in the first half, late in the game would be the chances for Orlando to score goals against that defense that will have exhausted itself in those 45-minute periods. I think Orlando gets it done. Probably not the shiniest game on the board. Maybe a 1-goal game, maybe 1-0, something like that. Austin and Sporting Kansas City, once again, Sporting. You look at what they did. And Peter Vermees, his lineup was Pulskamp in net, back 4, Leibold, Volader, Valencia, Davis. In front of them, Tommy, Rodriguez, Bartlett, Radoja, and Shallowy, and Dejan Joveljic up top. Dejan Joveljic played 62 minutes. Eric Tommy played the full 90. Shallowy played 83 minutes. And your back line, just so you know, Jacob Davis played the full 90. Valencia played a half and was subbed out after 45. Left-hand side, Volader played the full 90. And Tim Leibold played 62 minutes before being subbed off. Joaquin Fernandez was the one that came on at the half for Valencia. Logan Ndembe played 30. Manu Garcia played 30. Willie Agata played 30. Steven Afrifa played a handful. On the bench that did not play: Ian James, Orhan Basong, Jansen Miller, Magomed Suleimanov, Alenis Vargas, and Mason Toy. So that's what Sporting is looking at coming into this matchup. But once again, Sporting on the road at Austin. Austin is a -125. I want to see what the lineup looks like once again. Having to look for leg 2. How do you juggle this one? And being a +309, not really a surprise. Houston and Dallas. Houston favored at a -111. Like I said, we talked to Glenn Davis and got everything about all that firepower that was there. And it's all the changes. No Kadaskia, no Ache, but you have folks coming in. Jack McGlynn. What does Houston look like? What does Dallas look like as they try to get acclimated with Acosta and Musa up top in the attack? +301 for Dallas and Houston, by the way. 4 other matchups that we may get into: Nashville and the Revs, all caps in Colorado, San Jose, RSL, Seattle, Charlotte, and then the 2 games on Sunday: Portland, Vancouver, and LAG and San Diego. So it's time for, it's Jared Smith. Welcome aboard. How are you?
Surviving.
Yeah?
Yeah, man. Surviving.
Good.
That's what it's like. That's the baseline today.
Okay.
We met, John, as we have said before, we are all day to day.
Yes. Aren't we all? Yes. If Jared's day to day, aren't we all? As we get into, I was running through all of the matchups and just going through what to keep an eye on in these particular things. One of the bellwether things that I have as a marker as we were going through juice boxes and matchups and results, the teams that played in the midweek in CONCACAF who still are chasing results coming up the middle of next week, and what the lineups look like from the folks that traveled and played in CONCACAF midweek, because Cincinnati traveled forever, Seattle traveled forever, but they go home. Keep an eye on the clubs that had to play in CONCACAF in the midweek, even though they may very well be favored going into the matchups this weekend.
Yeah, it's something we always have to contend with. I think at the start of the season is when we get CONCACAF Champions Cup, and then inevitably you get like Vancouver had to play Saprissa. I think Cincinnati was at Motagua.
Yeah,
this week.
Seattle at Antigua in Honduras.
Yeah, man. It's a lot of travel. It's tough, man. It's tough to deal with.
Yes. And so, looking at all of these things, there are some numbers of these teams that played in CONCACAF in the midweek, and the Red Bulls game, Red Bull Cincinnati specifically for me was one that I was looking at, because Red Bulls on the road are a plus 250. And so, I mean, it was intriguing to see these kinds of numbers. And so Bart is charging in here. Well, hi, Bart.
John, it's the day before the season. I'm excited.
Yeah. And I'm still looking for
everybody's cashing in ticket. They're cashing in money in the bank left and right.
That's what I wanted. That's what
I got off the email I needed to get off this morning, so now I'm free to talk.
Well,
I had to do actual work this morning.
And so I'm still looking for the piano to put my arm on this time of the week, but the piano's not here, so it's like there's air. That's all I'm grabbing into. So I mean, looking at things in general, Bart, we were talking about the CONCACAF teams playing in the midweek and some chances for folks to get results that they may not necessarily, even though you look at juice boxes, it's a big number. Minnesota's a big number on the road with LAFC. Red Bulls are a big number. That's the one that I'm really circling. Red Bulls with a big number at a plus 250 going to Cincinnati. Look at the CONCACAF.
Which seems high, period, because I think people are forgetting that Red Bulls were in the MLS Cup final last year.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I'm with you. That's the one that I've been looking at all week going, while Cincinnati is my favorite for the Eastern Conference, that's a tough start for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I am intrigued with all of these matchups. There are a couple of matchups that I'm sure that folks outside of those two particular teams are sitting there going, ain't no way. And one of those ain't no ways is probably Jarrett, DC, and Toronto, where it's
no.
basically
this is the game you watch because you have an addiction. This is like in a movie. This is where you would have that epiphany of, oh my God, I need help. I have a problem. Unless you are in the DC area or you are of a Southern Ontario persuasion in your life, and you have an emotional investment in either one of these clubs, I cannot recommend or sanction watching this game unless you are applying to be one of the sickos.
So basically what you're saying is you're neither condoning nor endorsing that kind of behavior unless you really are a sicko.
Yeah, that's like an application form to become one, is to watch either one of these teams. And I stand by, like, still not sure if Robin Fraser is a really good coach or not, and I'm not sure we'll know after Toronto stint either, because what he's going to have to work with, man, it's like it's like having someone go coach Purdue and be like, are they good? I don't know, they're at Purdue.
It's Purdue.
Jarrett left.
I thought that Jarrett was going to go take care of that large dog that was in the background.
Well, put the dog on camera.
I think he hit the wrong button is what happened.
Put the dog on camera.
I think that literally, I think that Jarrett hit the wrong button. So did you hit the wrong button, sir? I guess he did, because he dumped out again.
He did.
Unless, I think what might be happening is, are you having audio, sir? It's like I bring him in and then he dumps out. So I don't know what I think. Jarrett is fighting with that dog that we heard in the background.
Sounds about right.
No, it's like big MLS kicking me out for trash talking two of its clubs.
Well, I mean, you can probably trash talk Nashville and New England too.
I can trash talk Nashville.
Actually, now that Bart's here, I have to ask him if he saw the thing where like Rascal Flatts tried to sing "Sweet Caroline" in West Virginia, and
yeah.
and John, I don't know if you saw this.
No.
They did the "Sweet Caroline" instead of "ba ba ba." The fans shouted "Eat blank pit." The usual.
Wow.
Yeah, that's our normal thing that we do.
That's a standard reaction. This is not a surprise.
Wow. But I mean, whoo. Yeah. For the record, by the way, Nashville has signed their first-round draft pick Wyatt Meyer. That release has come out this morning. The other late games: St. Louis City and Colorado, San Jose at a plus 124 hosting RSL. I still think we ought to have a Hard Knocks, or at least an onside in its entirety with San Jose this season.
Correct.
Yeah.
Got to have that.
Correct.
Seattle
we
and
need
Charlotte. Yeah, Seattle having to travel 6,118 miles back and forth from the airport in San Pedro Sula. Gets Charlotte at a minus 127, Charlotte a plus 350. And then we have Cascadia and Portland and Vancouver, LAG and San Diego's the late game on Sunday. I look at – so, Bart, let me ask you about San Diego. This is where you put on your pundit hat now. I know you're wearing your Atlanta United shirt, but you need to put on your pundit hat as you sip from your Atlanta United coffee mug. When you look at San Diego, yes, there's Chucky Lozano. Yes, there's Luca De La Torre. What did you see in San Diego this year in their build-up to year number one under MLS's umbrella?
Well, I think first off, we need to start with what they're giving us as a look with their uniforms, which is bland, bland, bland. And I'm afraid that is going to transfer to the field because, yes, you got Chucky. I'm not sure. Luca De La Torre will be a very good MLS midfielder. I don't think that's like a hot take, but I don't really think there's anyone else on this roster that is going to help them become anything more than a expansion team that doesn't make the playoffs. I do not see a playoff path for them this year.
Yeah.
But that said, it does seem like they are focusing on a long-term plan. Now, that may seem okay in some respects, but I think what we Atlanta United has what we have told the league is you don't need to be patient as an expansion team, and you kind of do need to come in guns blazing. And I'm afraid they haven't captured that. I don't think a Mexican international player is going to be the ticket to their success in the stands or on the field. I don't think he's good enough to just bring that to them. And so if I'm a San Diego fan, I'm worried. If I'm a team who has to play San Diego, I'm happy because I'm telling you, I think it's just going to be bland. That's what they're giving from a uniform standpoint, and that's what I feel like they're going to be giving on the field too.
Jason drops in for the final 20 plus, or until we send him fleeing into the night from all the topics and conversation that we have.
It is 10:38 in the morning. What night are
John's out of control already?
Are you at the Bodo Glimt game up in the Arctic Circle?
See, now that
where it might be night.
That was it might for like days on end. Jason, I don't know to what extent you got into this discussion with Maddie last night on Six Pack, but Sunday Night Soccer is going to be unveiled on Apple TV, and it's LA Galaxy in San Diego. It's the beginning of everything in San Diego FC. And I know that the interview that Maddie did with Dax McCarty, Dax wasn't really all that about what San Diego tried to do to come onto the field here in year 30 of MLS.
I'm not either. They're just not well constructed. I do like the Chucky Lozano signing. I think he's a very good player. He'll sell shirts. He'll sell tickets. He's like, I get it from that perspective. And sometimes you need those signings. Not every club has the fan base that Atlanta United does, where you could sign, straight out of the gate, a Tito Villalba, a Miguel Almiron, who nobody knew at the time, and a Joseph Martinez that nobody knew at the time. And you could make them stars because you had a fan base that could do that. Some markets don't have that. And when you're in San Diego and you have to compete with Xolos right across the border, you got to capture people's attention, and I'm good with that. My issue is, what's the rest of the team? Like, Chucky can't play 5 positions.
No.
They have not built that roster well, and what's frustrating is to varying degrees. You know, Atlanta United, LAFC came out of the gates and were very good straight away. Nashville has been competitive, even if disappointing at times. Charlotte has been competitive, even if disappointing at times. Minnesota, it took them forever, but they finally figured it out. Good on them. It's you don't. Austin was good for a minute and then bad. St. Louis was good for a minute and then bad. Like, you don't have to come in and do the old school 1980s expansion team in a league and say we're not going to be good for 5 years. That doesn't exist in MLS with all the allocation money and things you get to build a team. There's not really an excuse. And it's very frustrating for a team that has huge ambition and a team that's going to develop a lot of talent. The right to dream connection is going to be huge for them. Why did they not go out and build a better roster for Mikey Veras in year one? It doesn't make sense unless they just literally missed on a whole bunch of possible additions that they couldn't get over the line. It's really disappointing for a team that I think will be a big one in MLS, but not in 2025.
All right, let's get into the discussion about Atlanta United. Jarrett, your first question for Jason here on a pre-match day, match week 1 here in 2025.
Yeah, sure. So we know Joseph Martinez is gone. Ron Courtois is going into another year of Montreal. And Jason, we've talked about this, that God only knows when Joey Saputo runs a club what the timeline looks like. But what does the attack look like for Montreal that would concern you?
Caden Clark and Bryce Duke. I really like the dual 10s, the way that they play. It's a unique kind of system that you don't get to prepare for very often. It's a 3-4-3, but it's more of like a 2 wing backs, a box, and a 9. And that's not always the way a 3-4-3 plays out. So you're going to have to deal with where Clark and Duke are in dangerous spots. They press well. This is a team that will take a lot of chances, especially in this one, because I think they're going to be a little depleted with injury. Jalen Neal, a question mark. Giacomo Vrioni, who will be up top, a question mark. A lot of questions about Montreal. And while I think Laurent Courtois is a very good manager, I really like the aggressiveness that he brings the team with. I like that they're bold. I like that it doesn't play in any way scared, even though he's got less talent than a lot of teams. You can only do so much. And I think in a game like this one for Montreal, Clark and Duke are going to have to be outstanding. You're going to have to cause turnovers. You're going to have to win the ball high up the field and then get in behind immediately if you're Montreal. I think they could do that once or twice. I don't think they can do that enough. And then the flip side is defensively, especially if they don't have Jalen Neal. George Campbell is poised for a big year with Montreal. He's gotten into the national team picture. There's a lot of openings at center back. So if George Campbell can have a big 18 months here, don't be surprised. Don't be surprised. I said it a long time ago about George Campbell as a possible U.S. men's national team player. The move to Montreal was a good one for him. He's gotten a lot of playing time. He's a very, very good player. He's one of 3 center backs. Joel Waterman, very, very solid. He's 2 of 3 center backs. Who's the other one going to be if Neal can't go? The wing backs I do like in Pierce and Marshall Ruddy. I think central midfield, Saliba is one of the more underrated players in the league. Samuel Piet, very solid, also a few years older than he used to be. You can get at him. You can get in behind him. Can he run with Saba? Can he run with Miguel Almiron? Can he defend Alexei Miranchuk? I think it's going to be a wide open game. What scares me is Duke and Clark in wide open moments. What excites me on the Atlanta side is Montreal not being able to run consistently in those wide open moments the other way. Could be a lot of back and forth.
Bart Keeler, your question for Jason involving on the field with Atlanta and CF Montreal.
You did touch on the massive U.S. men's national team rooting interest for Montreal, but outside of that, I do have to question what the point of it seems like a youth movement, but not a real, like, we're going full into the youth movement, if that makes any sense. When you look at the Montreal team with what feels like a lack of experience, especially in MLS, where are they going to be able to navigate, or how are they going to be able to navigate this MLS season, specifically starting with a re-energized Atlanta team, fan base and a whole bunch of people inside of a dome that's going to be real loud.
Yeah, I think for them it's down to the way that they play. That's how they're going to have to bridge the gap of talent and experience. I think they're decent in experience. I mean, Duke and Clark are young guys, but they've got enough. They should be okay. Campbell's past it at that point. I think he's a veteran guy in MLS with the amount of games he's gotten. Waterman and Piet are both very good. Saliba's still on the rise, but it's kind of in that Duke and Clark. I feel like where they are, it's not so much that they have no experience, it's that you have Duke, Clark, Saliba, put Marshall Ruddy into this as well as the right wing back. I think Campbell's past it, but those four, you're in that. You've got enough games now to be a regular rock. Are you? And that's a valid question. I think with all four of those guys, I'm really high on Bryce Duke. I always have been. I think he's a very, very good player. Can he take that jump to being in the Georgia Mihailovic kind of class? Because he's got the ability. Caden Clark, same thing. He's got the ability. Can he be that guy? That's the next step for those guys. But the way that they bridge the gap of just not having as much, they're going to have to be extremely aggressive. They're going to have to be extremely high risk taking. They're going to have to play high up the field. They're going to have to try to turn you over, and they're going to get exposed sometimes. I feel like they're a team that could win some games that shock everybody 3-0, and they're going to have some bad losses where they lose 5-0. Like, I really think it's going to be all or nothing kind of stuff. And if you're ready for that, if you're Joey Saputo and you're strapped in and ready to go, okay, cool. If you start to get antsy about some bad losses, then you're going to pull the plug sooner than you should. If you have an issue with that, give Laurent Courtois more talent. He doesn't have enough. So he's got to find a way to take some chances to bridge that gap.
Jarrett for Jason, Atlanta United, CF Montreal coming up tomorrow night.
So we talked about how they get forward, how they can cause problems for you. So how do you manage this if you're Atlanta? Let's say you are up in this game and, the game kind of hits a little bit of a lull where, you're allowing Montreal to have a little bit of the ball while not necessarily controlling the game. How do you manage those lulls in the game differently than you did a year ago?
You get behind the ball in moments where you have to, and then you break out with pace, which you didn't have as much of last year. I think, the way Rob Valentino had to play it down the stretch last year without a 9, that was at starting level, without Latte Lat. Jamal Tiare played very well. I think Daniel Rios played well. You got what you could get out of guys who were 2s and 3s on the depth chart. They weren't 1s. You got a 1 now, and you got a star 1. And you got a star 1 on the wing, and I think Saba has turned into that as well. So now you've got the ability when needed, and I don't think it's plan A, don't think it's plan B, but when needed, and a team is having those moments where they've got the ball and they're knocking it around, and okay, get behind the ball a little bit. You're in a 4-2-3-1, so you can drop 6 deep easily. Saba and Almiron are going to defend, so it can turn into a 4-4-1-1 when it needs to. Get behind the ball, win it back, and when you do in those moments to change the momentum, look for the quick ball over the top. It's not something that this team is going to do all the time. I think there's so much conversation about like what Ronnie Dylo wants to do and some of the things he said that I think are really getting twisted into like their own National Enquirer magazines at this point about being bored in a first preseason game about passing backwards. They're going to have to pass backwards occasionally. I do think they will look to get forward faster than previous Atlanta United teams. I do. But you're not going to be reckless. You're not going to tell, Ronald Hernandez, Matt Edwards, Noah Cobb, Steven Gregerson, Derek Williams, Luis Abram. You're not going to say, don't pass backwards ever. Just bomb it. No. This isn't 1984, Camden FC. Okay, this is going to be still based on creating good opportunities and getting guys forward in organized ways. You're going to have that ability this time, though, when you get your head up and you see Almiron in the starters blocks on the right side of the field, and you see Latte Lat crouched ready to sprint in the middle of the field. You're going to have those abilities early in a game where teams are kind of getting at you a little bit, keeping the ball, maybe frustrating you a bit. You're going to have that ability to hit one long ball, and have those guys take off out of a cannon. And then the other team says, oh, crap, we got to deal with that. And then they start to have to change. And they're going to have to drop off more. And they're not going to be able to be as aggressive. Then that creates space for you to play in. I want to see if Atlanta does that from time to time this season, where you need to change the momentum. You need to throw a sucker punch at the opponent. Yeah, hit a 50-50 long ball. Let Miguel go chase. Let Latte Lat go chase. They don't get it. That's fine. You can then press. But also you plant that seed in the other teams like, hey, I can't play a high line. Hey, that guy can run past me in 20 yards. I can't do that. Now you start to scare them. Now you start to then they drop off. You try to get in behind, but they drop off. You have space for Moranchuk. You have space for Click. You have space for Saba coming inside. You have a lot more space to work in, but you have to do that to create it.
Jarrett Smith, myself, and Bart Keeler, Soccer for US POD, catching up with Jason here as we get ready for Atlanta United and CF Montreal. 7:40, I think. They're still taking the 10th minute in the pregame on Apple TV. Who's calling the game on Apple TV, by the way? Do we know?
It is Callum Williams and Kalen Carr. We have a 1v1 with Callum on the network as of now. Madison Cruz caught up with Callum yesterday. Talked a lot about the game, obviously, but talked a lot about MLS Season 30 as well.
So, Bart Keeler, Soccer for US POD, your next question for Jason as we preview.
So we talked about youth movement with Montreal, and they do have a lot of young national team. It feels like with Atlanta United, our young guys are going to struggle to find a way into the starting lineup, let alone find minutes. While I think most people will look at that as a negative, what are the positives of still providing our youth players, maybe outside of Noah Cobb and Efrain Morales, but like they're not expected to cut. Hopefully, this year they're not expected to come in and have to be key contributors like we've had to use them in years past. I mean, obviously let's have no injuries, but it does feel like we're not relying on a U22 guy this year like we have had to in the past. How does that help with this team?
Well, I mean, you kind of expressed the conundrum in the question. Like, you can't, and I feel like some of the conversation at times around the city, you can't have your cake and eat it too. Like you want to develop young players, absolutely, and they need to play to do that. But you can't sign the best players in the world if you're going to play kids from your academy in those spots. Like Luke Brennan's a prime example. I think Luke Brennan's a very talented player. I think he still has to produce more in the final third. That's the step for him, and now's the time. But who's going to win you more games right now in 2025, Luke Brennan or Miguel Almiron? Like, it's not a conversation. An academy forward or Latte Lat. Like, that's the reality of wanting to be a big club. So you can't do both in the same way all the time. It's impossible. Montreal's going to play younger players because they don't have Almiron. They don't have Latte Lat. They don't have those guys. They're not spending on those guys. Colorado makes decisions in the same way. Dallas has made decisions historically in the same way. Philadelphia has made decisions in the same way. You can develop young players in this model as well. And we've seen it in Atlanta. Look, injuries happen. Guys break through. Bello, Wiley, Chonqui's coming. Don't know when, but he's going to get time. He's going to be on a first-team deal next year. Those young guys have to push. And, I mean, I think we have this conversation, honestly, in any field, any job that we do. It's this balancing act of developing talent while retaining really good talent. It's this balancing act of that really good talent wanting a pay raise, wanting more money. And you either pay them or you don't because you're giving an opportunity to somebody younger who's going to be cheaper. You have these conversations every day in every walk of life. So Atlanta United this year, and this has been, in my opinion, the feeling from the fan base for a few years. They want to win. Okay, you want to win? Who gives you a better chance of winning in the starting lineup on opening day? Someone who has scored double-digit goals in 3 different seasons, 2 of them in English Championship. Somebody who's got 220 games in the Premier League with Newcastle, who's coming back to you. Somebody like Mateusz Klich, who has 50, 60 caps with the Polish national team, whole bunch of games in the Premier League and the championship. Who is going to give you a better chance on paper, those guys or young guys from your academy? I think if you know me and you know what we've done on SDH over the years, you know how much I believe in the talent coming out of this academy, how important I believe that is. But if the demand is win now, you got to play guys that have been there and done that. And that's where Atlanta United is right now. But when that door opens, and it will, somebody's going to pull a hamstring. Somebody's going to have an injury, hopefully all minor stuff. It's life. You're not going to have the starting lineup play all 34 games. Impossible. You're not going to start that way already. Like, it's not going to happen. So you have to deal with that. And that means Dominic Chonqui maybe at left back. He's going to get some time. Jay Fortune last year, look, he's a starting level player. He might not start as much this year, but he showed last year he can be that. Noah Cobb showed he can be that. Maybe he's the third guy. Maybe he's the fourth guy at center back. Efrain Morales is biding his time. He's done everything he can with the time that he's gotten. Luke Brennan, same thing. Like, these are all guys who have good ability, who have done as well as you can do so far. And George Campbell's the prime example. If you're Atlanta and you want to win now, you might have to go get somebody who's further along in their development. That means your young guy might get to a point, and then they might be worth $900,000 in allocation money, and go to another spot that is good for them and good for you in the return that you're getting. You know, that's the reality. You can't play more than 11 guys. And if you want to win now, you got to play guys with more experience to give you a better chance right now. If you're long-term and you're DC and you give designated players away and you say, look, we're not really going to try to compete this year and might get our coach fired, but oh well, then you can play your guys out of your academy and you already have low expectations. I don't think you can get away with that here, and I think we've seen it over the last few years with the reaction. You want to win.
Jarrett, for Jason, what else is on your mind this morning as we get ready for Atlanta United and CF Montreal?
Well, this will be the last one for me, but I want to ask about the bite in this team. I think we saw it last year. For me, Jason, one of the watershed moments was the Nashville home game, where you got knocked around in that game, and you didn't show the fight that I expected to see. And after that, it seemed like they had a choice to either lay down or stand up, and they stood up. I go back to Stian Gregerson getting one of the Red Bulls players sent off. But kind of getting stuck into fights and how much we'll see of that this year. Not necessarily just trying to bait people into fights, but having that responsible edge to you.
Way more of that this year. I've seen it in preseason so far. Starting with just committing fouls in transition more regularly. Like, if you're going to be aggressive with counter pressure, you got to know when you're beat, and you got to know, okay, I can take a foul here. Okay, I might have to take a yellow card here. You're going to do more of that. You're going to have those incidents where somebody waylays Almiron or takes a shot at Latte Lat. And I think you've got guys in this team that aren't going to stand for it. And that's good. It's what's been needed. It's been an issue, I think, for a while. It's okay to be a team that gets a lot of yellow cards. It's okay to be a team that commits a lot of fouls. That doesn't mean you're a bunch of bad guys. You have to be ready to take that stuff. And, you don't want to see
officially stumping for Philadelphia. I see it. Okay.
No. That's the difference I'm making, because you don't want to be cynical about it, and you don't want to do the dumb time wasting things about it. Like, you want to win games, and sometimes your way to win games is somebody beats you when you're pressing, foul them. Somebody decks your star player, deck them. Like, these are all elements of it, and you want to do it with the goal of winning a game, not trying to be the new Broad Street Bullies. Like, there's a difference, and it all has to point to winning games. And I think at times this team didn't win games in the past because they didn't have as much of that edge to them. I don't think that's going to be a problem this year.
The back line right now, we're still waiting on the late fitness test for Derek Williams, yes?
As far as I know, yeah.
So if Derek is in, how does the back line look in your opinion? If Derek doesn't pass the fitness test, how do you anticipate it looking, I guess?
Well, I think the question is between Stian Gregerson, who played 45 midweek from last Wednesday, so 10 days ago. Played 45 there, played 45 against Dallas on Saturday. That would make you think that he could play because there hasn't been any setbacks that I know of, that he could start. Can he finish? I don't know. But can he start? Yeah, he should be able to get you to halftime easily. Luis Abraham's been very good in preseason, so I think he can go wherever you need. Noah Kopp can go wherever you need. Derek Williams is, I guess, day to day is the best way to put it right now. If he can't get you to halftime, then he doesn't start. And I think it's a little easier in this case with Abraham on the left and Gregerson on the right, because Gregerson starts if he's healthy enough. We have seen it. We saw it against Dallas where Gregerson didn't start. It was Williams on the right and it was Abraham on the left, which, they're both lefties. That's okay. You can do that. My guess would be that Abraham and Gregerson, if Williams can't go. If Williams can go, then it's the question between Abraham and Gregerson and Williams. Who are the two fittest? Who are probably ready to run a good bit, because Montreal's going to try to play over the top. Who's ready to do that? And I think all three are, along with Noah Cobb. I think they're all ready to go. But my guess would be what we saw last week with Gregerson in place of one of the two. So I think Gregerson and either Abraham or Williams would be my hunch.
Bart,
Go for it.
I have a follow up to that, and this is like galaxy brain, so I apologize.
Oh boy, here we go.
With Brooks Lennon out, and possibly one of your starting center backs out, could you see possibly a 3-back, at least in possession, or no? You don't.
Well, in possession, different conversation.
Okay.
That's different.
Because I could see like starting a right back as Noah Cobb for
No.
and then it
didn't play
So
at all in preseason.
Okay.
Did not play there at all in preseason. And
Okay.
he was asked about, I know that came up in the offseason. I think that was before Ronnie Dyla was here. And I think Dyla sees Cobb as a center back. No question. Does not see him as a possible right back. In a pinch, is it possible? Sure. I don't think it's how you start. Like if you get late in a game and, especially in this case, if Williams and Gregerson are not fully 90 minutes ready to go and, they're gassed and can't finish the game and you've got to move pieces around, is there a configuration where Cobb ends up at right back? Yeah, I could see that, but not to start.
Okay.
I think
I was trying to figure out like, okay, you got this guy out and possibly this guy maybe out and this guy possibly out. Like, how do you put together a back line that makes you feel comfortable?
I think it's pretty simple. I mean, we saw, and you go back to last Saturday, which was not a dress rehearsal, but kind of, sort of. You saw Matt Edwards at right, and you saw Ronald Hernandez at left. Ronald Hernandez is ready to go wherever you need him. That's just who he is. You want him at fullback rather than center back, but you had to play him at center back. You could too. Yeah. You don't. You're covered there right now. I think Matt Edwards has had a really good preseason. And we had the chance to sit down with him, Madison and I, yesterday. You'll hear that here shortly as well on the network. Exclusive plug. Matt is a guy who Ronnie has spoken about consistently as a top defender. Very good in the shutdown defending. Think back to Miles Robinson a little bit when the conversation early on in 2017, before you really saw him, early 2018, when we were seeing him with Atlanta United too and others weren't. Everybody talked about Miles being such a good defender. It was the other elements of the game that they wanted to see improve, the soccer IQ, the tactical know-how, it being better on the ball. Those are the things that Matt as well needs to improve, but he can defend. Yeah. So if you go into it with Edwards, with Hernandez, who can defend, and Edwards or Hernandez can get forward too. Edwards got forward against Dallas too. I liked both of them at fullback in that game. Hernandez got an assist. Edwards took advantage of the space that Almiron created coming inside. I think you're good with that without Lennon, without Amador. Amador hopefully coming back into the team for training next week. So that'll be a process to get him back. I think you have those swing guys in case of emergency or to finish games out in Abraham on the left and Cobb on the right. You can if you have to, but I think more in terms of the way you play, they're going to defend in a 4-4-2 because the way you're going to see it is Almiron and Saba drop to create that line of four. Moranchuk goes up high with the forward. It's then going to look at times like a 4-2-4 in the way that you press, but your defensive shape is going to be that. Offensively, you're going to build up with three a lot, but it's going to be the central midfielders dropping. You're going to want to get those fullbacks high. And it's going to be combinations of Sleesh and Click and Muyumba and Fortune when they're in that are going to drop into those spots. And we've talked about it a lot in the Chattanooga game because the team worked on it very specifically in the week leading up to it. It's been consistent throughout the preseason, and it's probably time to follow back up on it. You're going to see as often potentially as you saw the old school 6 drop between the 2 center backs and build up to create 3, but it's not 3 center backs. You're going to see that, but you're going to see the 6, one of the 6s, you can call the 2 central mids, whatever you want to call them. It's a double pivot. You're going to see one of them drop to the side of the center backs quite a bit. It's something that I really liked seeing the drill, and I want to see it more in activity where, for example, you go to the right side, you play to, let's say it's Edwards tomorrow. You play to Edwards higher up the field, nothing doing. You come back, and you then come back to the center back and over to the defensive midfielder on the opposite side of the play to then break out into space. That is something that is a different way of build up. Some teams do it. We've seen Pep teams do it. We've seen others do it. I really like it with this group, with Sleesh and or Click in those kinds of positions to then drive forward into space. You almost use the initial ball as a diversion. You bring it back, and you hit the midfielder on the opposite side who had dropped into the back line. They go.
That's kind of when you are going to look at this team from, say, those heat maps or the past maps. I'm not envisioning something, and you talked about formations. I'm not envisioning something that looks drastically different than what we saw with Pineda, obviously. I mean,
same
but
general
what you-
ideas. Yeah.
But what you just described is how I think we're going to see a little bit more eagerness to actually go forward. Is that a fair distinction between?
I don't. Yeah, I don't think Gonzalo wanted the team to not go forward.
No. But like it was more of a. We were looking for it a little bit. We will be looking for it sooner.
You'll force it more now.
Yeah. Okay.
I think is maybe the way to put it, and that's what Dyla's going to demand. And it's down to field position. You know, I mean, field position we talk about in American football all the time. I've really leaned into talking about it in soccer a lot over the past couple of years.
Have you been watching my U13 games? Because goodness gracious, it feels like the team that gets the kickoff gets the field position for the whole half.
It's so important, and it's something that I'm sure there's somebody out there with yelling footy at me about it, but it's a important element. And Dylas talked about it a lot in preseason. He wants to play in the attacking half. He doesn't want to play in his own half that much. So it's not so much that they didn't want to go forward before. I think it's that Dyla's going to demand of them to get into the attacking half quicker. Knock the ball around there and find the open man. That's okay. Don't knock the ball around in your own half as much. So there's going to be a remit to get into that attacking half much faster this year. That's going to be a work in progress. I think we've seen it in preseason where, you have habits, you have muscle memory. You decide at times, I'm going to keep it and I'm going to be patient. Now the demand is no. If you come back, which you're going to have to, I don't want to see the situation where we start like getting anxious about a pass backwards. It happened in 2017 and 18. It happened then with Frank de Boer got killed for a team that had to be more conservative because they lost their legs defensively.
Yep.
We cannot do this. Passing back to go forward is a good thing. Have to explain it properly. I do not want to see headlines about this nonsense all season. I already know we will. It's about coming back. So go back to that scenario of you play up the right side to Edwards. He's at midfield. He's boxed in. There's nowhere to go. Do you just give it away? No. You come back to the center back that's closest to you. The thing is, when you do that, in the past, maybe it was, all right, reset, keep the ball, cycle it. Let's stay organized. Now it will be get the ball forward from that spot now. Don't go back again. Go to the opposite side and go. That's what you're looking for now. The pass back has to trigger getting forward, not just to keep the ball and then look for an opportunity. It's come back to get forward. That's what you have to do.
The real question is, can that translate from the U13 size field to a regular field? But I guess that's what
it does. I mean, look, like I feel like where the game's evolved is, we talked for a long time just because the way we think about this game is constantly evolving. We thought for a long time possession numbers showed control, and they can, but not by themselves. It's about field position, which also doesn't entirely show control. You can always point to the game where a team has one shot on target and they win the game 1-0. You
Yes.
can always point to that game. That's an outlier, generally. And I feel pretty safe about saying this. Generally, if you have more of the ball, you're going to create more chances, which gives you a better chance to win. If you play more of the game in the attacking half, I think that's even more of an indicator of you're more likely to win. You're not guaranteed, but you're more likely to win if you have the ball higher up the field more often. It gives you a better chance, and that's what this game's about. It's not purely possession. It's more of where you're having the majority of your possession. And I think that's where Ronnie Dyla is on board with that kind of model. I think Hansi Flick is somebody who is very much on board with that sort of model. A lot of Pep Guardiola and Hansi Flick. And I think Barcelona's been really interesting to watch this year because there's some elements that are very, very different. But there's a lot of similarities. Pep's teams press really well, and they do those things defensively. Not right now because they don't have Rodri and they've gotten older. But in general, yeah, they're about defending first where they want to defend in your defensive third. They want to defend up there. They don't want to defend in their own half. That's kind of where Ronnie Dyla is. That's where he wants to be, I think. It's about field position. It's about where you have the ball. It's about where you defend. And you want that to be as far away from your goal as possible.
All right. Jason, anything else that is we have not addressed that is still on the table before we get the plug for everything at 92.9?
I'm sure there's a million things to still talk about. If you guys have any more questions, fire them off. Otherwise, I'm going to go study Montreal some more.
Yes.
Work on my French.
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely true. So broadcast plans for 92.9 on the weekend.
So, well, let's start before 92.9. Tonight, we'll be in Dalton, Georgia for Soccer Town, USA. Dalton Catamounts hosting the Johnson Knights. Could be one of the best boys games in the state of Georgia this year. Dalton went to Gainesville last year, beat them 2-1. Knights coming off of a loss. They lost to North Forsyth over the midweek 2-0. Dalton had a huge win down at Peachtree City 3-0. Really looking forward to that one. 7:15-ish we'll start on the network. 7:30 for kickoff. That is this evening. Then I will be in the studios at 92.9 The Game tomorrow morning. This is becoming like a yearly tradition. For whatever reason, I fill in on opening day a lot. I will be there 7 to 11 tomorrow morning with Sam Crenshaw. You will hear from Madison Cruz during that show. You will hear a lot of clips of audio from Dax McCarty, from Callum Williams, from Matt Edwards, from Ronnie Dyla, from Brad Kazan, from Mateusz Klich, from Saba Lobjanidze. You're going to hear a lot of audio throughout the show, 7 to 11. We're going to talk other sports too. But you know how it is when I'm there on a match day. I'm going to kind of, kick a soccer ball into the conversation.
Talk about the match on match day, man.
A lot. There's going to be a lot of stuff we're going to talk about there. So that takes you up to 11 o'clock. Then you can catch your breath. Georgia State's men have a spring match if you want to go over to the facility and watch that one. That's at noon. That's a good pregame warm-up. And then 6:30, Five Strikes Countdown on 92.9 The Game, the Odyssey app. It'll be Abe Gordon and Madison Cruz getting you started with everything. Before 7, probably about 6:55, myself and Mike Conti will have Garth Lagerway with us in the booth. We'll talk about everything kind of off the field leading into the opener, and then kick off 7:40, and then full-time report with Abe and that guy up there in the corner, John Nelson, starting the post-game show. Tons of audio from the locker room afterwards, and then all of us will be jumping on microphones and talking about how things concluded. You can listen to that on your way home. 92.9 The Game and the Odyssey app. And if you're watching at home, you're not going to the bins, you can listen to our game call on Apple TV, MLS Season Pass. Go to the audio menu, choose Home Team Radio, and send them requests if you want to listen to us on the road. They just need to plug us in, but we're one of the only ones who travel. So other teams need to travel, and Apple needs to give the visiting radio an option, and we will do that for you. Otherwise, you can listen on the Odyssey app and sync it. And it's not that hard. I did a lot of syncing last year, and it's pretty close. It's not too difficult to do.
Yeah, because literally all it is is taking a separate audio cable and
It's running it into the truck.
into the truck.
Yeah. It's the reason why you can't do it for teams that don't travel is like we had this issue in 2017 when we didn't travel, and it's very difficult because you've got to sync the audio and the natural audio with your audio. Very hard to do. They're not going to do that. But if you're on site, it's literally running a cable through the wiring of the stadium into the truck.
Yep.
And that's what they do for the home team radio. So it's doable. It's just doing it and providing that option. They do it for, I believe, their Major League Baseball coverage on Apple. So it's not impossible to do. It is doable. The fact is, it's us, it's Red Bulls, it's NYC, it's Colorado, Philadelphia. That might be it that travel consistently.
Mhm.
There's others who travel some. I'm trying to think if there's anybody. Oh, Cincinnati travels consistently. That's sad that's about it. And I think we're really lucky to get this opportunity to do it. The reason why we get the opportunity to do it is we're very fortunate to have a club that values it and has valued it from day one. And we're very lucky that a lot of people listen. And look, if they don't, then it's very easy to cut travel and have us stay at home and call it from the studio, which we would do. And we would kill it as best as we could, but it's a lot harder to do it that way. So we're very, very thankful that it's year 9 of Atlanta United, and we're getting to call these games in amazing venues like Mercedes-Benz Stadium. We're getting to travel. We're getting to tell the story of this club. And tomorrow is the start of a really, really exciting new season. So everybody who has listened, everybody who does listen, thank you for giving us jobs and opportunities to do this. And we'll do our best to tell that story this season.
Yep, 6-1-1 in home openers across the board for Atlanta United heading into year 9. And Ricky says, you're going to do a 4-hour radio show the same day you're doing the game?
Yep. Won't be the first time. Won't be the last time. I'm doing a game tonight too.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, maybe. I don't know. There's other people who work pretty hard. Last Saturday, I did a game and a half and then did 2 high school games that night. So, and they both went to penalties. So that was great. Look, I'm lucky, man. I'm lucky. I think it's really important in whatever role, cachet, value I bring to the table doing Atlanta United games. It's really lucky to reflect that, or I'm really lucky to do it. I think it's really important, and it's a responsibility to reflect that back on the community. And if that means popping in and talking soccer on the biggest sports talk radio station in the Southeast and including soccer in that conversation, which no other market in the United States does on a regular basis.
All right.
Seattle and Portland are great soccer towns. LA, New York, Chicago, great soccer towns. Their leading sports talk stations will not have the soccer content throughout the show, throughout the day, throughout their programming like Atlanta does. It doesn't happen. It just does not. Their soccer people don't get to host like I do. It doesn't happen. So we're very fortunate to have that. And it's very important in my mind. And it's even more important as we go into a Club World Cup this summer, a World Cup next summer. The Atlanta United side is critical and important. The national team side is critical and important. But this high school game in Dalton, Georgia is critical and important. You know, these youth mini fields being built all over the area is critical and important. Parents driving their kids to games tomorrow morning and then going to the Benz tomorrow night. It's all very, very important. Everybody who refs, everybody who coaches, everybody who has kids playing, everybody who's part of it, it's all very, very important. And you can get in your feelings about, like, I want it to be bigger, or I want this, or I want that. You can do that. That's fine. And we all do it. And hopefully it leads to good things growing. But man, take a step back and think back to when, you know, people our age were kids. We didn't have Atlanta United games to go to at night. We didn't have games on the radio to listen to. We didn't have the level of soccer that we have now. We didn't have all the opportunities to work in the industry and be role models to the next generation. We didn't have that. So I know there's things we want to be better. I know we want our teams to win every game. I know we want the national team to win the World Cup. I know we want all these things. We do, and that's good. But man, don't let that distract you from how good it is right now. It's never been this good. Hopefully 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, it'll be even better. But right now, it has never been as good, as voluminous as anything as soccer is in this country right now. Never. Not even close. It's amazing where we are. And I can't wait for this year to officially start tomorrow.
No doubt. I will bring the throat coat tea. I will have
That stuff's gross. I don't need that. That's gross.
That is not gross.
Throat coat tea is gross.
Not gross.
I have drank it 2 times in my life, and I wanted to vomit afterwards.
Dang. Jason, I didn't expect you to have a bad food take like this.
It's throat coat tea is gross. I will, when I have a sore throat, when I need to go tea, I will go lemon ginger with honey. That gives me
That's a good
the
choice.
elements of throat coat that I need. Honey, I've back in 2017, that was the worst I was during a season. I think I was still getting used to all this. I had a couple of games where I took a spoonful of honey in the break before kickoff and in the last break at halftime to get through that 45 minutes. But in general, I've been all right, knocking on wood, in terms of getting a sore throat and dealing with it. You learn some tricks about how to talk, and you learn some tricks about how to call a game when you do have a sore throat, and pick your spots. Save it for the end of the game if you blow your voice out, because then you can just sign off and be good. But no throat coat tea. That stuff's gross. Don't bring it anywhere near me. And I will have tea if I need it tomorrow, but I'm in pretty good shape. We'll see how the game goes tonight.
All right. I'll see you this afternoon on our way up to Dalton. We'll catch up on the road.
Adios, everybody.
All right. There goes Jason.
Adios, Jason.
And it's always fun to have Jason come in and discuss things. We are really in a blessed space, and it's to have everything going on all the different levels across the board. It's fun to be able to be a part of it in our small way, So glad that Jason was able to give us the big pep talk going into the 2025 season. Last things from you, Bart. Anything else on your mind before we go?
Well, I've got a couple of pieces of content hopefully coming your way, John and Jason. Working on a blog for the site, ranking the MLS 2025 kits using the Taco Bell sauces as the metric. There is one kit that may or may not be receiving a sauce at all. Who knows if they even asked for it from the counter? I don't know. And then also recorded an episode earlier this week talking about the USL League Division 1. John, I'll be honest, we weren't high on it.
The idea that
we asked the question, why are they doing it? And none of us on the call could figure out outside of money what the real motivation would be. But with that will hopefully be coming to you today, John, as well, everyone, because I will hopefully be editing it today.
Yeah, there you go. As always, Bart, thanks for crashing in and being the first example of the Friday free-for-all and coming in and all the Q&A that we plan when it comes to Atlanta United and everything else going on in Major League Soccer. So Bart Keeler from the Soccer for US POD, the first person to come in on a free-for-all Friday and be a part of the party line. So you got
John, it is exciting. We have a season starting tomorrow. I look forward to seeing some of y'all at the game and seeing your big face on the Jumbotron tomorrow.
Yeah, and no makeup. So
bye, y'all.
Last thing you want is me with makeup. Thank you, Bart. So there goes Bart. Bart's going to have a lot of stuff up. So once again, everybody, thanks for dropping by. Morning 4Card, morning Kefsy, by the way. Morning Katie Wheeler. I've just grown accustomed. Everybody's talking about throat coat and how it's gross. It is, Katie. I've just gotten used to it, I guess. She says 100% throat coat is gross. No, I've just gotten used to it, I guess. It's not really gross for me. Derek, back in the day, indoor soccer on TBS. I had indoor soccer on the USA Network. I had, when I was, and this will really date me, we had here in Atlanta the Georgia Generals. Jeff Bourne had stayed from his time with the Chiefs and the Dallas Tornado. When he was done in the North American Soccer League, we had here the Georgia Generals. And somewhere in my stacks, I have the remade Georgia Generals logo and T-shirt. So, of course, knowing me, you're going to have something like that. Back in 1982, the Georgia Generals played in the ASL. And it was Star Spangled Soccer at DeKalb Memorial Stadium, 1982. That's what we had after the North American Soccer League. You had the Attack, you had Chiefs Indoor in the late 70s, you had the Ruckus as a part of it. My first exposure to the sport was in 82. And it was the Star Spangled Soccer of the Georgia Generals at DeKalb Memorial Stadium in Jeff Bourne. And the match that sticks in my head is one of the best team names ever. The Oklahoma City Slickers. I don't even think they made the entire season. But it was the Georgia Generals and the Oklahoma City Slickers, and I have the program somewhere. I've got the ticket, and I have the program somewhere in all of the stuff that I've saved over the years. That was my first exposure to the sport. And to go through the ruckus at Adams Stadium and talking to folks like Michael Sabatel at the time and doing live shots and discussing what was going on with the men's and the women's team at the time. So you go from Memorial to Adams to what we've seen with the Beat in the WUSA and the WPS to where we are now. And the fact that we got, I think it was before the Billy Crystal movie 4-card. All right, so if Star Spangled Soccer was in 82, City Slickers, let's see if we can get IMDb to answer the question for me. 91 was the movie with Billy Crystal. So, like I said, for me, it's 1982 at DeKalb Memorial Stadium. Then going from there all the way to where we are now, where you go to Mercedes-Benz Stadium, state-of-the-art facility, with 70,000 of your friends, and you get to root for a team that has been assembled to flat out win and just slam it into fifth gear every single time they can. Think about this offseason for Atlanta United. Ronnie Dyla, Chris Henderson. You bring back Miggy. You bring in Latte Lat. You bring in Mateus Click for, a pack of menthols, some zingers, and a mood ring from DC United. All of these players that have been assembled, the youth movement that is going through the academy, getting to see somebody like DCQ, Dominic Chongqui, continue to improve. Guy like Matt Edwards, who's impressed in the preseason. Noah Cobb, Efren Morales, all the young guys that we've covered here at SDH with as much time as we've spent with the twos. So you know what's going on with this club when somebody steps in. You've known about Noah Cobb ever since day one. You've known about George Campbell ever since day one. That they were a part of the fabric of what's going on here. All of you get to go to lot 17 tomorrow. I think it's going to be in the 50s. And I think Ricky the Hoff and I might be going out there. I don't know what the plan is for the piece about that you'll see on the board, getting everybody acclimated to match day all over again, the welcome back piece. I don't know what our plans are yet. I haven't seen a rundown. But it'll be good to see anybody and everybody when we get to leave the building or when we're in the building in the hallways and things like that. And seriously, you see me running around, just yell at me and say hi. It'd be good to hear your voice. Good to see you. 7 weeks went by like that. Like I said, everybody was worried. What are you going to talk about for 7 weeks? Well, you certainly found out a lot to talk about. You've got Alexei Miranchuk with a full training camp under his belt. Saba finally got some rest. Latte Lat, Miggy, Click, Sleesh, all of these guys that are assembled. And it all starts again tomorrow in Major League Soccer. And it will go by in a flash. So enjoy the ride the entire time. That's all I can tell you. Enjoy each other. Enjoy the game. Enjoy all of the other aspects of it, because I've seen in the Twitch pitch that some of you have to get up really early on Saturday and Sunday mornings for your U5s, 12s, and 13s. It's because you love what you love what you're doing associated with the sport, and you love those that are involved in it and want to have fun and enjoy it. And you get to spread that love and that wisdom forward every single time that you're out there. And like Jason said, tonight we're going to Dalton for Johnson, Gainesville, and the Catamounts. 4-card, good to see you. It'll be good to see you. So just enjoy the ride on all of the levels that you're interacting in. Because as Jason said, you got Club World Cup this year coming to Atlanta. You got the World Cup coming, 16, 15 months from now? To Atlanta. Probably and you're going to have the National Training Center in suburban Atlanta. In theory, you're going to have the Women's World Cup here in 31. And obviously, with the National Training Center, you're going to have matches in Atlanta. All of this stuff going on right now. And for me, going back to the early 1980s and seeing where it is now and what you can do now, we are in a tremendous spot right here. So we can't thank you guys enough for everything that's associated with what we do on a daily basis. The fact that you guys listen as much as you do, that you spread the word as much as you do, that you're showing support and being a part of the family as much as you are. And we're incredibly grateful for that. We couldn't be doing any of this without you. And we're all going to walk forward in match week 1 here in 2025. Tomorrow, lot 17, inside Mercedes-Benz. And yes, the pop when number 10 will be introduced. It's going to be huge. It's going to be a fun moment. So for Jarrett, for Nick, for Maddie, for Jason, I'm just John. It's Friday, and so we got to end it in the Friday way. So once again, just be safe. We'll see you in a bit. Welcome to 2025 MLS season. Have a good Friday, everybody. We'll see you either in Dalton tonight, listen to Jason on the radio in the morning, or we'll see you in lot 17 and at Mercedes-Benz. Have a good weekend, everybody. This is how we always close it up. Have fun. Play it safe. Mucho plati, y'all.
The war was on. The keys on the typewriter had sharp points that kept sticking into our fingers. The dictating equipment started asking us questions, and our beepers sent electric shocks just through our body like a cattle prod. Out in the warehouse, the trucks kept banging into the docks, not even thinking about stopping. Oh, our frail bodies were strapped to the chairs, and our chairs were chained to the desks. Our pleas for justice were ignored, and the end seemed near. But we busted our slave drivers' little bitty balls. We've charged out of their brick fortress, the